All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Muhammad versus Bonfim, taking a look and giving our predictions for the upcoming UFC Freedom 250. To do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend, the Ohio player, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
I'm doing very, very good, of course. We had fights on Saturday. It is now Monday, and we get to talk about them. I mean, I have been saying, guys, that this was going to be one to talk about, and of course, we have some stuff to say. So I'm really excited about today. I would say that.
Absolutely. Same here. Yeah. I mean, for an Apex card, this certainly was an interesting one and a pretty solid one. A lot of finishes on this card, of course. And then we've definitely got to talk about the main event. So plenty to talk about when it comes to this card. And obviously, I mean, I think we would be remiss if we didn't at least acknowledge the gravity of the upcoming card that we will be talking about before we get to it. We're getting ready for in the lead up now to the big UFC White House card. Chase, we were talking a little bit before the stream. Are you excited?
I am very excited. Like I was telling you guys, I have been trying to spread the word as best as I can. Like what is there better to do on a Sunday? On Trump's birthday? Guys, it's gonna be wrote about in the tribal. I keep telling you that the rain it will hold off. Donald Trump will hold it off. There will be fights on the White House lawn. They're gonna walk down from the Oval Office. It's going to be not only a spectacle, but it's gonna be something that you can't escape. Like they're like, oh, where's it gonna be showing? Guys, turn the fucking TV on. Like it's literally going to be everywhere you look. If you don't think everybody's going to jump on the opportunity to see the fucking White House spectacle, other than the fucking, the other side of the political side, they probably won't
Sure.
show it probably, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. There's going to be people not watching out of protest, perhaps, but
Correct.
I mean, this to me, I would say that regardless of where you fall on the spectrum in that regard, I mean, just the magnitude of the fight. Take the politics out of it, and
Hmm.
obviously, I have my own political opinions, all of those kinds of things. Just the fights themselves. I mean, this is a hopefully going to be a once in a lifetime event in the scope and the scale of everything, as far as all of the production and all that part, all the stuff we've talked about. The things that we're going to be seeing in the presentation. But again, you can even take that out of the equation. These are all fights that we all, I think, want to see. I mean, pretty much every single one of them. Maybe Nickel and Dawkins, maybe not in there, but other than that one, but I think that there's a lot on this card that to be excited about. It's going to be airing on CBS and, of course, on Paramount Plus. So we're all going to be getting ready for that. And Sunday night, get yourself prepared.
People are saying that it's going to be aired on these channels, but I truly believe, like, how like the weather warning comes up. I think we're going to get like a ticker, like for most channels, they're going to be like White House event, like, and it's going to be across when there's a severe thunderstorm alert, or the school's canceled and they get that takes precedent over everything. It's like, all right, here you go. Here's your little time block. They're going to come on and be like, look, Sean O'Malley's walking out of the White House right now, but we're going to get back to your program. But just so you know, this is
True.
on in CBS. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen here.
Ship to shore, from coast to coast, they're going to be sounding the alarm, letting everyone know that there are fights on the lawn of the White House. Exciting times. I mean, I think there's definitely some good things to be excited about for it, and I'm sure that it's going to be entertaining one way or another. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that I can't wait to just see all of everything about it, because I'm sure that there's going to be plenty to be inspired by, as far as like the gravity of it, and then also a lot of things that we are probably going to find somewhat goofy and funny, perhaps. You know what I mean? Like there's probably going to be a spectrum, I would say.
I would hope. The thing that I would say, yeah, no, definitely funny stuff's going to occur. This is going to be one of the more, people are saying it's kind of like The Boys. This is like an episode of The Boys or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's going to seem satire, but it's not going to be. That's the crazy part.
Sure. Well, I mean, not the least of which the big reveal of the ring girls outfits. That was really where that conversation started today. They look a lot like the costumes from the boys, but shout out to all of the lovely ring girls who are going to be out there sashaying in those various attires.
Yeah, I think that was a point that I wanted to bring up as well. The ring girls attire was a lot less and creative than what we had at Noche, of course. And I find that interesting because it's not necessarily in Noche. You had like the eras kind of deal. This is more just like, and you posted the GIF or whatever. This is just Wonder Woman cosplays. Like it's like
Sure.
not even good ones, really. It seems.
Well, I think that the issue there is that, with Noche, obviously it's celebrating, a kind of a broad spectrum of Mexican culture. This celebrating American culture. I guess they did try to have a variety of different like looks to them. So like maybe there's some connection there in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure the costume designer could like describe it and be like, okay, I can kind of see it. But yeah, it does kind of just come off as like old school 70s Wonder Woman.
Well, and my thing, I posted the thing that I said about it first is because I know nothing about American history really when it comes down to the nuts and bolts to it. But like, was Rosie the Riveter not like a big thing? Like, I could have that could have been like the easiest costume for one of the women. I would have been like that's recognizable
Well
as like
well, that's
American
that's my
history or whatever.
yeah, well, that's my thing, though, is I think that if you talk to the costume designer, she can probably say, "This was inspired by this thing, and this is a
Mm,
tribute to this thing," or whatever. Like, I'm sure that there are connections that can be drawn, even if they're not as, like, apparent to the naked eye, to the average viewer, you know what I mean?
fair.
Um, but, yeah, I mean, and also, obviously, for a card of this nature, they had to be somewhat modest, so I think that that was to be expected, because I think a lot of people were maybe expecting something different based on what you see on the normal UFC broadcast. A lot more material involved when it comes to these outfits. I think that that's perfectly fine and acceptable under the circumstances, right?
Yeah, 100%. Another thing that I think is key to note here is because Dana White came out and said something along the lines of like, we better get like I don't know what the Oscar is for like this type of award show or the award show that would be for this type of sporting event or whatever. But he's intending to have an award given for this type of event. And makes me question, did Noche get one? Because that was at the Sphere. That was also like a very grand spectacle. And this
Yeah.
is like the one up to it. So, it makes you like this is what he just wanted an award at the end of he wanted to be the best on the top. He wanted to be on top for this year.
Yeah, no, and I believe that Noche did win. I believe it's Emmys. It's a
Yeah,
television
yeah.
stuff, so it's Emmys, and yeah, and I believe that Noche did. I think Noche won 2 Emmys, if I'm not mistaken, for some
Hmm.
technical achievement or something like that. So I would not doubt that this would also garner some type of praise in that regard, if it even happens, of course, because as you know, and as I was talking about. I did not get the video out as I was expecting to. That is, my mistake, and I apologize for that. But there is a lawsuit that has been brought against this event at the last minute. They're coming in right under the line, trying to file an injunction against this. And just to tip the hat, I'll talk about it a little bit later in the stream, of course. But I plan on doing a breakdown of the lawsuit in detail on stream later this week. So keep your eyes on the channel for when that happens. I'll talk about it a little bit later. But we'll see. I mean, do you think that there'll be an injunction? I would say probably not. Of course, there's also been numbers ranging from 25% to 65% as far as chance of rain. I mean, like that's been all over the place as well. So all these different factors, and then obviously security, bugs, all of the things that have been the talking points for this thing are all going to be coming up, and it's just going to be a very fascinating thing to watch how this all plays out.
I think another no, you're absolutely right. And the last thing that I think is going to be interesting, and I think this is to what Dana White is his legacy, what this event is supposed to have. Obviously he wants the awards, he wants to down in history, this is the only thing that happens on a White House lawn kind of deal, whatever you want to say. I think this also is going to be something, that claw, they call it the claw. I think he's going to set a standard of what live events could be with this type of device. Like, we could have outdoor events anywhere you want kind of deal. You have the claw right here, and people are going to be like Dana White, the originator of the claw, and it's going to be something that live events take on. I think that's also a big part of it. I don't know if it's going to be, but that's the way that I would think of it, is like, because the structure that they've built, they're making it seem like it's some grandiose new thing, and while it may be, it's built in Philadelphia, had to be shipped over here piece by piece, things like that. But I don't know. I'm thinking of what is this? What are we trying to prove here with this specific device, like the claw itself?
I mean, probably form and function, I would think. There has to be something that fits the space in front of the White House and also seats the amount of people that they want, gets enough coverage so that it accommodates what they're doing in the space, all of those types of things. I think. I don't know if it necessarily translates to other outdoor events 100%, because I would think that the capacity would be something that they would want to be more for other events. Obviously this is a small, relatively small event as far as like the amount of people that are actually going to be in attendance at the show itself. But who knows? I mean, who knows if it's even going to go away? Of course, the president says that he wants to keep this structure potentially forever at the White House in front, right there out front. So instead of seeing the actual White House from the road, you would be seeing the claw, the octagon, all of the trappings. So who knows?
I love it. Yeah, no, this is awesome. I think, we'll obviously talk about the White House event on separate streams and during our streams and stuff like that for the event. So we'll wait and see what exactly is going to happen, of course. So I'm just excited that we get to talk a little bit about the fights later and the event itself. I mean, buckle up. It's going to be something crazy, guys.
Again, I think at least in that point, I think that should definitely be noted that as combat sports fans, we are living in a moment in history. You know what I mean? Like that, just again, politics aside, all of that other stuff. This is a moment in history for the history of combat sports. This is, I mean, a couple of years ago, it's not even that long ago, less than a decade, maybe a decade, if that, the sport was not even legal in New York. It was just legalized in France recently. I mean, like, this is still a very new sport in general mixed martial arts. And now we are on the largest stage potentially of all time for it. So for that reason alone, I think that it is worthy of acknowledging that we are in history. We are living history in the present right now.
No, 100%. And after all that, I'm really glad that we got to break it down. But of course, we got to shut out the chat really quick. It's been a
Please
minute
do.
and they've been going crazy. Jesus.
Yes.
Johnny the God, of course. Thank you for being here first. Let that be a lesson to everybody else. You will get a special message if you're first. Johnny the God. Love you, brother. Bleeding Edge. Meat Rocket. John Dong. John Dong. Meat Rocket, of course. And let's see. Didgeridoo Dave. Didgeridoo Dave. And then Valayan. Thor, all right. Valiant.
Yeah,
There you
Valiant
go. I don't
Thor.
know how to fucking spell. There you go. Good deal. I'm
Appreciate
excited.
you.
This is going to be a great episode. Appreciate the chat for being here, man.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for rocking with your boys on a Monday night. Of course, now with all of that, conversation about the White House card, I think it is only fitting that we talk about UFC Fight Night, Muhammad versus Bonfim first. I mean, what a way to roll into the White House with this card here. What'd you think of this card on paper going into it, Chase?
On paper, I remember we were doing a separate stream. It might have been for a Street Word episode, and I was just I happened to glance ahead at what this card was shaping out to be, and I told everybody right at the top of the right when I found out, I said this card, aside from 3, which I will tell you right now, other than like 1 or 2 of them pleasantly surprised, So other than 3 fights on paper, this is one of the better Apexes I have seen. Not just, of this year, but kind of reaching into a pretty decent time period where this is a good Apex card. And I'm happy to say that a lot of fights stayed on and it went through and we had a really good time with this one. I really liked this one, not just on paper, but as I was witnessing it. So I was happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I said the same thing. There's always a couple of people come into the chat every once in a while and say, oh, I've heard from this person or, rumors and, just other community conversations that, oh, this card's not that great, blah, blah, blah. It seems to be a very recurring theme. And sometimes it's like, okay, I put a little bit more stock into that than others. This one, I was like, no, this is actually like really decent, especially after we talked it through last week. And yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to it. Turned out to be one that I thought delivered as well, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. So of course this is UFC Fight Night, Muhammad versus Bonfim, and it took place at the Meta Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. And if you are ready, Chase, why don't we just start with the first fight of the night?
We can start with the first fight of the night. The thing that I will say, and this became apparent later on with one specific fight, but I will say, just speaking to the Apex and to this event, you really got to see just how much of a difference those extra seats became, because this was a pretty good fucking crowd for a fucking, it seemed like the whole extended family was there for everybody. I mean, one specific person later, but it was a jumping crowd, and rightfully so. This was a good fucking card for it. So
yeah, you make a very good point. It was noticeably loud in the Apex for this one. A lot of people had a lot of support. I guess a lot of people brought their family and friends, teammates, whatever, to this event. But it was certainly apparent on the broadcast. You could hear the support which is, really good to hear and see. I mean, it's nice, especially with a card like this that has a good amount of activity and finishes, etc. Nice for those people to be in attendance.
I think another thing that, we often think it's friends and family. Yes, friends by nature, I mean like the people from back home, but we also got to understand that these are people just hanging around the PI. We have a lot of people that are South American on the cards, and when they're at the PI, they're hanging out with each other. They're not necessarily teammates, but they are their peers, of course. So this could make up a percentage of the crowd as well, who just are fight fans just like us, who are really trying to get their game to this level, and they're taking notes, and they're really involved in the product, I would say. So I wouldn't say it's always people that are in their corner 100%, but they're we have a lot of South American versus South American fighters, so they're not necessarily one or the other favoring. They might just be a fan of the matchup itself, kind of deal. So I like that.
Could be, yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm hoping very much so at some point to get out to Las Vegas and be able to go to the Apex and watch fights. So I do hope that there are tickets available for those types of
Yeah,
people, because I will be one of them at some point, maybe.
absolutely. Hmm.
All right. Well, that all being said, let's jump right into it. The first fight of the evening was Ketlen Souza versus Ariane Carnelossi. I mean, what a way to start this card off, right? Good bang here. And I said the kick that ended up being the knockout for Souza was certainly a legal one. I said Diani Barbosa wishes this was her so
Yeah,
badly.
I was gonna say Melissa Gatto is 100% lucky this was not her opponent, because she would have been destroyed. No, I think I was thinking this before the fight. I've seen Carnelossi fight plenty of times, and I think there's something to be said that with a woman with this frame, obviously you got to give her a shot, like there, and she's not necessarily the best or the worst, but in this fight, Ketlen Souza, I've seen clips of her do some crazy finishes, which at Noche, there was a clip going around of like what she did to somebody at Noche, and I'm like, damn, I forgot all about this, because her last performance was so bad that, like, how do you overwrote something so great with something so ineffective, kind of deal. And then when she came in here, I'm thinking there's not really much of a threat to be held, kind of deal. But Carnelossi, I mean, she went in there confident with the punches. Souza really, she was really too loose, too confident. She gave her no respect. It was actually quite, I mean, hands completely down, like not even close to her chin. Carnelossi was, walking forward, throwing some 1-2s and stuff, not necessarily landing, but Souza really just found the kill shot really quick, hit her with an overhand, like it was kind of like right on the temple, sat her down. She's getting up and then just fucking punts her in the head. And to be fair, Carnelossi, she did get knocked down, and she was definitely needing the fight to be stopped, but she took the shot. I mean, she wasn't unconscious. I'll give her that. She had enough chin to be alive after something like that, which is a pretty crazy kick. I'm not gonna lie. So
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. No, when it comes to that point, I did say that too. I said, this could have been perceived as like a slightly early stop. I mean, like just a little bit, because she was not out, but like she was looking like a newborn deer after the right hand landed, though. And then the kick, it's like, you're exactly correct. This, you could have let her get beaten for a lot longer if you wanted to, but it was probably the correct move to stop it where it got
yeah,
stopped.
there was a tweet going around, and we talked about this on the podcast when Morgan when Melly Costa knocked out Morgan. It's like it's something to not be unconscious, but to just be looking at your opponent like, what the fuck did you just do to me, kind of deal. Like, and that's kind of where she was at. And I'm not gonna be the one to say that this was an early stoppage, because we obviously I have something else to say later, but I kind of agree with you here. She probably could have took an extra shot or two, but hey, she
Right.
wasn't gonna get up, bro. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and definitely pin that for the conversation we're going to have in the fight you're talking
True.
about. But no, the other point that you made though, about Sosa kind of being a little. We talked about it on the last week. Sosa has like garnered a reputation for herself over the last couple of fights of being like a do nothing fighter, and that's what we all kind of thought was going to happen. For the early part of this fight, she did look like
Yeah.
that. That's the thing that was crazy to me. It's like Carnelossi came in with so much pressure. She was connecting, not tremendously, but she did have a couple of decent shots. I think she connected to the body like early on, which is like, okay, good. You're starting off fine, but you're not given any kind of space or respect, like you said. And then Sosa just, it's like something clicks where it's like, all you got to do is move
Mm.
forward. Just like, just be the advancing fighter. And then you finally do that. You start actually doing something and wow, good things happen. I mean, what a crazy surprise that was. So that literally was what it was. She started moving forward, did not allow Carnelossi to be the bully in the situation, and lands the shot, then the kick, all good. You know what I mean? This was exactly what should happen. So hopefully she stays with that. I mean, that's the only thing I would say about this. It's like, yeah, you get a great highlight worthy finish here. Hopefully that continues to translate, because I would say the caveat that I have to it is that I've always kind of thought Carnelossi was not really of the caliber of the UFC, just based on what we have seen. She's never, I think I called her big for nothing. You can definitely, I think, make that case. She's very muscular for a lady, but she doesn't utilize it effectively enough to be like, a fighter that you think has a lot of potential to go higher. So, like, are you going to be able to translate that to, farther on down the line? That's all I'm wondering from Souza here right now. Great finish. Can she
Yeah,
replicate?
and it's actually quite interesting because you're asking if she can replicate it down the line. Well, she stepped up to Bruno Brazil, did nothing kind of deal. Yeah, so
Right.
but when you think about the fight that I was talking about at Noche, she got like a nasty finish. People, if I don't know if you remember per se, but it was kind of similar to what Alexa Grasso did to Macy Barber, and it's kind of crazy that that slips your fucking mind. But that was also against somebody that I don't even think is around anymore. Like, so here we go. Like, she's good. She can look like the most brutal fucking killer in the cage when it's Carnelossi. So
Well, and I guess that's kind of more what I mean is it's like, yeah, we've seen flecks of this now, but it's like you got to be
yeah.
consistent, and that's the problem. Replicate on a consistent basis against higher level talent. So I guess that would be the takeaway from this fight is just like you saw this. If this was the only fight you'd ever see from her, then you might have an impression of her. Just be aware that if there's going to be higher level competition, that this might not always be the
Yeah, I
case,
mean,
right?
come on. The champ is Mackenzie Dern. Let's be real.
True. And, I mean, Mackenzie Dern's not going to allow this to happen to her. You never see Mackenzie Dern kicked in the head like that.
No, nope, never.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's always potential, of course. But the last note that I had about this one was there was a very cold moment. It was quick, so I don't know if you caught it, but they hug it after the fight had been stopped. Carnelossi, they brought the stool in. She gets up to hug Souza, and then Souza gestures for her to sit back down on the stool, like, go ahead and recover some more. You need it. That was like, oh, that's kind of a cold move, even if she didn't mean it to be that way.
Yeah, no, I thought you were talking about her little dance after she won. So she kicks her in the head and it gets stopped and she goes.
Yeah, that too. That was an interesting one. That one. Yeah, I don't know what you call that move, but it's almost like the
Mhm.
Misfits. Maybe that's what that
She,
was.
I thought she was gonna hit a 6-7 to be fair, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but so I mean, really, end of the day, this was a great way to start this card. I mean, what I had said on the watch along, and I'll say it here too, is that these types of finishes, or I mean, like not just these types of finishes, but just like finishes in general and higher level of activity and competition in women's MMA is how you break the perception that a lot of the fan base has. And I know a lot of them are memeing, but I know a lot aren't, where it's like, oh, bathroom break, take a smoke break, whatever, just do something else. Women's MMA is not
Yeah,
valuable. This is how you change that, I would say. So I really appreciate starting off the card that way. And we talk about how women's fights early on in the card is like setting the tone, and they put like good fights early for that. Like keep that throughout and keep those people that fight that way. You
yeah.
know what I mean? That's what I hope for the organization.
It's actually kind of interesting. I kind of really dig the idea that put the women's fight up front because the people who show up early are the people who are kind of fight fans, and those are people who are going to appreciate, at least I would assume, more. They would appreciate that more than the people who just show up for the main fucking card, and they're just kind of hanging around drinking their beer, whatever you want to say. But for the people who really appreciate what they're seeing, having them up front and close, you get here early, you get to see some good stuff. So I appreciate that.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, then I guess it's going to be an interesting conversation going into this next one, because I know that the two of us have different opinions about this fight. This is Jeisla Chaves versus Yuneisy Duben. So I rewatched this fight, of course, watched it live, rewatched it. I kind of have the same opinion of it that I had before, maybe a little bit. Like I said, basically to sum it up, like this was an okay fight. It was not a bad fight by any stretch, but it certainly did not smack of fight of the night or anywhere close to that for me. So I'm curious to know where you drew that from, if that was your opinion.
Again, as I have to clarify many different times, for the criteria of fight of the night, when you have 7 first round finishes, there's only 2 options when it comes to what we had up until that point. And I thought this was the better fight. So that was, I said, again, throw it in the hat for fight of the night. Not that it was the fight of the night. It was at the time, out of the 7 first round finishes, there was 1 decision we have. It's like, well, I mean, what else can you say? But the point is I actually do even believe that this was a really good fight. Because when you think about this, 7-0, 6-1 at the time. These are 2 green athletes. You have somebody who is transitioning from a non-combat sport. She's coming at a time. Obviously, she's not jumping right from being a ring girl, but she didn't grow up being the karate fucking protege. You have Yuneisy Duben, who, again, the combined opponents' records for them, if you saw the tweet, it was 1-12 and 1-13 for Yuneisy Duben and Chaves. So they don't have much pro experience, and they're still feeling this out kind of deal, which I think is great for them being on the apex, because don't throw them out there to the wolves kind of deal, I guess, per se. Like, this was a good opportunity, and I thought they both actually wanted to fight. Dude, and I've said this before, sometimes women's matchups, they understand the assignment. You ain't gotta listen, just go out there and want to win. And I think they both wanted to win. I think Chaves, for what she has, her past, of course, again, she was not the protege, but she is very skilled. She knows martial arts. She knows mixed martial arts. She knows how to mix in all of her weapons. The one thing I will say that is interesting is she breathes really fucking heavy for the entirety of the fight. Like, she's just like like, I think we need to work on that, but again, she's really, slow into her. Yes.
Comes from the Nicholas Dalby
Yeah,
school.
like, I don't know, I don't see it that often, so I'm not a big believer, but she can prove me wrong. She's a very plodding pace, but Yuneisy Duben is a dog, really true to nature. I mean, she really was in there throwing big bombs. Obviously she's not the best, guys, but she wants to fight. She proves that she wants to be in there. She's not somebody who takes a punch and then she's not the one off that got that knockout in Contender Series and then just gets finished. She came to fight. She got the decision. Split decision is very arguable. I mean, this was a 30-27 at best, but I think Chaves has got a very bright future. I think she is very good. If you look at what Schnell Dyer is, I'm not saying this is, but the pieces are here for a similar style fighter. I think she's confident enough, but there's just something missing for Chaves. But I think it's there. I think we just need a little more time. I'm telling you, this was good.
Well, yeah, and that's an interesting, I think, distinction when it comes to women's MMA and men's MMA, is that, like, this is the highest level of the sport in the UFC. And I mean, there are certainly, I don't misunderstand. Obviously, the men do learn on the job as well,
Mhm.
of course. Fight over fight, people are getting better. That's what you want to see, fighters improving as they rise in the ranks and as they take more fights. But like, when you see a fight like this, it definitely, like you said it yourself, these were 2 green
Yes.
fighters, definitely. I mean, these are very new to the sport. And so I don't want to be like overly
Yeah.
negative in this regard, because they're, I could be going through piece by piece, picking apart this. I don't want to go that deep into it, but like, you see that they're like what you said, that these are like, their moldability is here for sure. And to be able to learn on the job in the highest level is an interesting dynamic for women often. I mean, like, that certainly is more the case with the women. I would say it's very rare that you have a male fighter that is in the same situation as these women would be, and like doing the same kind of trajectory. You know what I mean?
It's to a point too, when it comes to women in martial arts itself, is like, there has to be they don't often start very, very young and be those proteges. That's a very unlikely thing for a lot of women, because they have to be, they get more mature and then they get pushed into it, or Eunice Dubin was just defending herself against guys or whatever. That's how she started into martial arts or whatever. There has to be, it's not necessarily a gradual upbringing in combat sports. It's like there's a push point where they go into martial arts. So a lot of them are still learning, like you said, because they didn't start out doing any type of physical combat sports. Chaves was the ring girl, like how does that doesn't translate at all to where she's at now. So it's all these new motor skills that she has to learn. So I think you're absolutely
Sure.
right. And women do listen, they might learn a little quicker than guys. I don't know, but I mean I'm breaking it down to myself right there. That's what I would say.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, so with that being said, and as the understanding, keep that in mind as the caveat or the overall overarching point that that I have when I go through any critiques here. There was a lot of that on display. Like I think it was pretty obvious, like at certain points, that they were newer to the game. Because like in round one, especially, there was a lot of shadow dancing in front of each other. They were missing shots a lot. I think that Cháves, over the course of the fight, definitely like took control. She won the first round most definitely. I mean, like she once she got into her rhythm, was able to command the presence. But early on, there was some like, some times where I was like, are they actually going to get into range to connect? Because like they were really chopping air for a lot of it. But she did take that first round pretty easily. Duben just seemed like she didn't like getting touched, and that's going to be, something that is going to be a huge problem for her going forward if that is the case. Definitely did not want any firefighting, was what it felt like, at least. Or, and again, it could just be being newer, whatever it might be.
She
But
did get knocked
it
out
felt
too. You got to remember that. Carly Judice, she
true.
kicked her in the fucking
Yeah,
head. So maybe trying to
exactly.
play
And
it a
then
little safer. Let's not risk too much here, kind of deal. So,
sure, absolutely. But then you also have Chaves, who's a big woman. I mean,
dude,
like comparatively, at least. Duben might be a little bit smaller, but still, she was towering over her, so the size difference was very
that
apparent.
that is another thing, and I think maybe my final point to why I think these are two bright. Yuneisy Duben, for what it is, I'm not going to say she has the brightest future in my eyes because what I'm seeing is not necessarily the most skillful person. Unfortunately, she's a dog. She's going to go in there and fight. She'll take the fight, but. Uh, Compared to Chaves, I mean, at 8-0 compared to 6-1 or 6-2, like there was levels to what we were seeing. But the point that I want to make is Yuneisy Duben. She came in really good shape. Like when you saw her in the backup doing warm ups, I thought to myself, like, man, she looks like she's slimmed out a little bit. Like she looks like she's more comfortable for the weight because when she came into Contender Series, she's obviously not built like she's not Carnelossi. So she came in and she looked like she put in the work to get where she's at now. But then on the other end, Chaves is like molded like she looks like she is just built for martial arts or something. Like she is like not even just tall. I mean, I think I see where the ring girl status came in with tallness right there. And like she just has like she has muscles, guys. Like she's got fucking triceps and shit that are sticking out of her fucking, she's in really good shape and she's got a lot of skills and she's very, very young. And she seems like listen, she she could fucking do whatever with her looks. She chose to be a fucking fighter, guys. So I mean, I'm cool with it. I like her.
Yeah, hey, fair enough. I mean, again, I think that there are certainly improvements to be made that will probably be made over the course of her career. The only other big thing that stuck out to me was, the inexperience was kind of on display in round two when she finally got the back control. She probably could have finished the fight. In the position that she ended up in, she just wasn't able to secure the choke. I think that that's one of those things that like she'll probably like get to the point of being able to have the instinct to just be like, take the neck, finish it up kind of thing. Cause she was really fishing for it. She had the back control and she has so much weight on her too, that it's like, she probably could have just held her there for a lot longer than she ended up doing that as well. But, she ended up kind of letting her wriggle out and didn't secure that. So things like that are the things that stick out a little bit compared to more experienced fighters. But the will to be in there, getting the win in the UFC, she obviously takes this pretty seriously. She got the Dana White's
I,
Contender Series tattooed on her shoulder. So, I mean, she, this is obviously a big part of her life and, takes it seriously enough for that. Uh, get better. Just continue on and keep doing what you're doing better each time. And that's really, what you want to see. And that's what's going to take her into better things.
Absolutely. Yeah, this one was pretty fun. I think this was better than a fight that we will talk about later. So it wasn't the best, not the fight of the fucking year, but as of the criteria for what we had laid out in front of us up until a certain point, this was not a bad fight. I like this. I mean, and listen, I like my cat fights. What can I say, guys?
True. Yes. Well, and you know, I think that there is something to be said for championing women's MMA in general. So I am always for
Oh yeah,
that. All right. Well, that being said, let's move on to the next one here. Before we do, shout out to Owen Mania in the chat. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for hanging out with us.
absolutely.
But next up on the agenda is Jordan Leavitt versus Joanderson Brito. Leavitt came in overconfident in this fight, and I think that it makes sense that he would be, considering how much success he has with the style that he brings to fights. I think that the problem becomes, and I, hard to know, not being in the camp, how much they know about other fighters, how much research they're doing, how much tape they watch, etc. We talked a little bit about Joanderson Brito being a dude who at one time was on a pretty good win streak, had kind of a checkerboard there for a little minute. It wasn't going as solidly as it once was. Also a little bit inactive, kind of a guy that sort of pops up at random. It feels like he's not consistently getting booked or whatever. Maybe Leavitt just didn't realize that he was about to get hoisted by his own petard in this fight. But to see Jordan Leavitt get beat at his own game really, I think, should be the notch that Joanderson Brito needed. Because he himself said in the post fight, he was like, it felt like my first win again. It felt like a rebirth kind of thing. I hope that that is the truth for him, because I always thought that there was better for him than what that little rough patch would lead one to believe. I hope that this kind of win does that for him, because this was exactly what he needed, and I think to an extent kind of what Leavitt needed. Just knowing that you can't just go in there and flop on your back and just expect everybody to just instantly get submitted by you, bro. Like it's not how this game works.
Yeah, this one is definitely an interesting one because, and I could have seen, I saw this one coming, of course, because Jordan Leavitt, with his last performance against Leavitt, I felt like that is where Jordan Leavitt, even though they call him Leavitt now, was it not Leavitt before? Either way,
It's always been Leavitt. I just, one of those things that I thought you were kind of memeing on it, but like, I don't know, but yes, no, it's just Jordan
okay.
Leavitt.
Either way, he had his moment, and I thought that was perfect for what it was. But when you come up against somebody like Brito, I think it's not even just a style. I mean, this is somebody, Jordan Leavitt. He's a dad, shout out him. But Brito has the dad strength. Like he's like the OG. So like anytime it's like I feel like he's just always formidable when it comes to any type of wrestler or grappler. And then for him to pull out a sub, I wasn't surprised. I was thinking a first round finish for Brito was very, very likely. I thought he was going to be able to, put the hands on him and show Leavitt that, the grappling is just not even going to be an option when I start going. But the fact that Jordan Leavitt shoots right into a fucking ninja choke, I mean, it's pretty fucking epic. I mean, Brito, I'm not going to give him the most credit in the world. Let me just say that, because we've seen him flop. We've seen him not do very good. So one submission where you probably should have got the submission. I mean, once it was locked in, of course, like we've seen people get out of it, and yeah, you should have finished it from that point. But a good submission guy, a guy who really has jujitsu in his back pocket. If the dude just shoots right into your fucking arms, I mean, you got to just lock him up, kind of deal. So I'm not going to say Brito, this is the life changing performance for him. I think this is exactly what he was capable of. This is what I was expecting, not the sub itself, but for him to just pull it off, because Leavitt he's just not that fucking guy. I don't know. So shout out Brito, shout out him in his post fight, performance, when it came to taking his shorts off and becoming Derek Lewis. By the way, he says he doesn't know why he did that. Okay.
Well, his balls were
Yeah,
hot,
true. All
obviously.
right.
Even if he didn't know it, I mean, that's the answer,
True.
obviously.
Yeah. So it was definitely something to behold. Brito, he's somebody that has an image of somebody that I want to root for. Like he has the look of a fighter, I would say. That big old shark on his back. It's like, why would you do that? Like, but like, fuck
Yeah,
it. Yeah, this is why
it's
you're
one of the
here.
most it's one of the most perplexing tattoos I can think of. Just this huge, it looks like the old school Street Sharks cartoon from back in the '90s. I'm sure that some people will get the reference, but yeah, it is just an entire back of a shark, and he rocks it with
He
pride.
does, and I fuck with Brito. I wish he would perform like this more, because again, this is what he's capable of when you have grappling in your back pocket and you're able to muscle people around. I would say that this is a likely scenario for people who are grapplers. It should be, because in reality, I think he has pretty good, pretty good striking too. But just fucking put the paws on people. I mean, obviously you got the finish. No disrespect, but for future references, when it doesn't go for the first round ninja choke for the dude putting his neck right into your fucking arms, be more confident in the striking because you got the strength. Like we've seen it on display in the grappling and stuff, and you got good striking. So I would just like to see more of the striking. Great first round finish, but please just don't flop later because you didn't get the first round fucking gilly. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely that. And I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that this is the performance that he comes out with now after going to a decision, I believe. I'm pretty sure it did with Isaac
Yes,
Thompson.
which he arguably
So it's
didn't
like,
win.
right. So I mean, like, it's just it's a crazy kind of trajectory. But that's what I kind of meant when I was talking about it at the beginning of this portion of the review, is just like, get yourself to the headspace of knowing that this is who you are as a fighter. You're able to submit a guy of this level, whether or not it was because he put himself right into the choke, is, whatever. You can just put that to the side. Point is, he did it. So it's like, just go with that confidence with that. And like you said, I mean, the only thing I would challenge when it talks like the striking is that when he did have the opportunity to strike, he was a little wild with his striking. Like he went for some crazy like haymakers at a distance that looked a little bit sus, I would say. You be careful against some better strikers with that. But he was able to parlay it into better work later on. So, good on you, I guess. If that ends up being the thing that works, far be it from me to tell you what you should or shouldn't do when you end up getting a first round submission.
True. The last thing I want to ask you is about Jordan Leavitt's haircut for this fight, and he is somebody who comes in with a lot of different styles, and I respect the guy for this one. I kind of dig what he had though. It is very interesting. It is the one all around, I guess, and then he's got like just the little fade up here and then apart, and it works. Confidence is key. If you pull it off, you pull it off, I guess.
I'll tell you something, Chase. This is something I didn't even say this on the watch long, but I'll tell you right here
Mhm.
on the podcast. Would it surprise you to know that I at one time had a hairstyle very similar to his? Just shaved head, patch of hair in the front. People would ask me, "What's that all about?" And I had zero answer for them. No answer whatsoever. It was just something to do,
Hmm.
something different. So I say that to say, if he has a reason for it or if there's any kind of logic to it, I would like to know what it was, because I had it and I didn't have any. So please tell me what it's about. But I mean, I guess it worked. Like I didn't. His was a little bit more low than mine.
Yeah.
I might, like I actually had like a full, like it was like almost like the entire like front of the hair, and it like I ended up letting it go a little bit longer. So like I don't, again, I don't know rhyme or reason to it, but like I want to know what it's about. Like is there any purpose? Is there any kind of more, deeper reasoning is what I'm
I
saying.
do not know those answers, but I will say shout out to my guy Gates972. He's almost as bald as Jordan Leavitt was in this fight. So shout out to him. Hopefully
True.
it's growing back soon, but I don't know if it ever will, brother. But shout out to you.
Indeed. Well, and hopefully Jordan Levitt comes back with even another hairstyle and a better game plan in the next one. Because, like I said, that's the one last thing that I wanted to say about this fight when it comes to Levitt is that like kind of what I started with. You have a definitive skill set. We know this. Everybody knows what you do in there, especially if you saw the Yadier Del Valle fight. Like we know exactly what your strategy is. We know what you're good at this point. Like you have to have like you have to parlay that and utilize that better. Like you cannot just have that as the one thing. We talk about this all the time. It's mixed martial arts for a reason. You have to have a broader skill set and a broader application of the skills that you have as your core. And I think that if you go in there and you're instantly, taking yourself down basically and just assuming that you're going to figure it out in the moment, there are going to be people, much like what happened here, who are going to have answers for that. And I just think there needs to be a better approach. That's my final
Yeah,
thought.
100%. I can live with that, but yeah. Shout out
Fair
Brito.
enough. Yeah,
Brito.
yeah,
I don't know how
absolutely.
that works.
Yes.
Don't know how it works.
Joanderson, yeah, Bree too. Yeah, big make them up with pronunciations. Wait until we get into the Polish
There we
fighters.
go. Yep.
But yep, see, there you
Right.
go. You right on cue. All right. Anyway, let's move on to the next fight here. This is Priscila Cachoeira versus Chelsea Chandler. Now, I know. I had a whole long monologue about this fight on the watch along because on the last episode of this show, I had nothing kind to say about Chelsea Chandler. I don't think I've ever had anything kind to say about Chelsea Chandler in the history of this show that you and I do together, Chase. What I will say right here, right now, this was the best performance that I can recall ever seeing from Chelsea Chandler, and she made weight. Nothing to meme on here. I legitimately, 100% without any hint of irony, this was a great performance for Chelsea Chandler. She did exactly what she needed to do. I think Priscila Cachoeira did what I expected her to do. She tried to bully her early. Chandler had an answer for it, found an armbar somewhere in there. I was very happy for Chelsea Chandler to reshape my perception even in a small way, and whether it goes forward or not, we'll talk about that. But
I am very happy about the outcome of this one, and obviously, what do I know? I'm just on the side of destiny, it seems, because when you pick somebody like Chelsea Chandler, who's from Stockton, motherfuckers, like, come on, I'm surprised she didn't get a slap in there, but she, listen, she won the fight. Good on her. What I will say is, if you are somebody out there who doesn't see the vision yet, even if after a finish like this, which she got the knockdown. It was kind of weird. It was kind of an interesting one. I don't really know exactly what shot really did it, but she fell down and then she worked towards an armbar against somebody who really doesn't have much grappling, prowess, I would say. So good on her for showcasing that she does have the hands and she does have the grappling all in one fell swoop. There's one thing that I will say about Chelsea Chandler, and this is evident now after watching the main event, after listening, yeah, and this is maybe just listening to Dom Cruz a little too much, throwing feints off the back foot. He says he seems to believe that's a lot harder than what it looks like. And Chelsea Chandler, this is another thing that I've started to know about Paulo Costa. Feints by moving backwards. And all he does is feint, move backwards, and then finally unloads a just monster shot. It is a tactic. I'm with it. And I think Chelsea Chandler, I think she does kind of have this, her style's really funky. She has this like slap your hand away style. And it's like what are you even doing out there? But it's effective in women's MMA. Unorthodox is still something that we don't really see that often. The closest that we maybe get is like Juliana Pena. And, she's, whatever you want to say, but Chelsea Chandler, in a way, I feel like this was a clean victory for her. I mean, she played the outside, she set up the feints. Priscila Cachoeira, when you watch her, and she's got this stance where she's got her hand in front of it, like she looked like she was Nate Landwehr, and I was like, where have I seen this before? Where she's just got her hand right here, she's blocking her own fucking eyes from the shot. Anyway, I feel like Chelsea Chandler proved not only that I'm just lucky and I just randomly can pick somebody who has fate on their side for the day, but I think she truly made me a believer, and I really think that's important. As somebody who's 7-4, there's you can't judge that the same as whatever she said. She was injured. She has lost to the 1 and 2 person in it's fucking bantamweight. There's like 4 people who are just uneligible to be at the top right now, but Jocelyn and Norma Dumont, she has lost to those people specifically, and she is 7-4. Her last fight was against Jocelyn, who is now on a 6-fight, win streak or whatever you want to say. And she didn't get finished by him. So I think it's really interesting if she says she was hurt and and she took the fights and she wasn't able to make weight for extenuating circumstances. I will believe it because she made me a believer in the product right here. I think she's on to something, guys. I'm sorry to tell you.
It's like I say all the time in these exact situations, just make me a believer and I will start believing. Like, that's all. Win your fights, win them convincingly. Exactly what she did here. And again, I go back to the original point. Priscila Cachoeira started this fight exactly as I expected her to. She was bullying Chandler around. She was not giving her any space. She tripped her at one point. She kind of just like thudded her onto the ground. I was like, oh, this is exactly what I kind of expected here.
Did you see hers? Did you hear Herzog in that moment? Whenever she tripped her up and she's on the ground in her guard and she's like, trying to make a move, and he's like, make a move or let her up. Make a move or let her up.
Oh my God.
Make a move or he said it like 8 times. It's like, bro, she's not doing anything. Like, are you gonna listen to yourself? How many times is enough? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I at least give him the credit to not just immediately do it like that other referee, if you recall, just going in there and saying, "Oh, time to
Yeah.
stand up." Like, wait, what? Yeah, Sumadarji got a little upset about that, as he should have. But yeah, no, Herzog obviously taking every opportunity that he can to insert himself into a fight in any way that possible. But no, I think that all ended up going correctly, and I think again, Cachoeira wanted that. Event, like she really what you're supposed to do, and what I think all fighters should do is if you want them to stand up, just take a step back. But she didn't do that. But either way, she wanted that to happen because she was like having the success in the bullying situations that she was putting her in. I thought this all started out exactly correctly. It's almost like when she got tripped, it kind of flipped the switch for her to start turning the tides, because that was when she immediately after that tagged Priscilla. And then I thought that she showed off some really solid wrestling in this fight,
The
But
wrestling was really good, but I would really just and maybe I'm glazing a little too hard, but if you are somebody who is a jujitsu fan, this is as textbook as it gets for a fucking armbar. I mean, it shows you that patience is a virtue, whatever you want to say. Like, she really took her time. You could see her setting it up. If you know what you're seeing, she had the arm lock, she had the leg over, and all she needed to do was sweep, get the leg over top and pull the arm. And this was a clinic really in the grappling. And I think that really just goes to Priscilla's grappling. I mean, for her to make it look so textbook, so clean of an armbar. Like, there was, come on, we've seen people do some interesting things to get out of situations. It kind of looked like Priscilla just she's just not equipped for it. And she's not able to have that kind of dog in the grappling is what it seems. The last time she tried to do it, she fucking tried to poke somebody's eye out. I don't know if you saw in this what her tactic for getting out of this one is. She put her foot in Chelsea Chandler's mouth. Did you see that? That was pretty funny.
no, that's funny.
Yes,
No, I did not see
it
that.
was good.
I appreciate that. By any means necessary, she's learning from the Mongolians,
Yeah.
perhaps. But no, yeah, that's where I was leading, though. I thought the wrestling led right into the grappling. And like you said, the patience that was my big note too. She stayed patient, commanding on top, committed. Once she found that the arm was there in the position that she needed it to achieve the arch back, she just went right into it, and lo and behold, you have the whole setup. Even commentary was even saying, it's like, oh, I don't know if she's actually going to go for the armbar, but it is there if she wants to try it. And then boom, she gets it. It's like, that's exactly what you should do if you're in the position to do it, especially with Priscilla Cachoeira, who, like you said, is not that great in the grappling department. When she has trouble in these fights, it is just like, night and day difference from who she is on the feet to who she is on her back. Like, if she can bully you, she will bully you. If she is not able to do what she is good at, it is like completely different person. So yeah, Chelsea Chandler doing the exact right thing here. I really appreciated this
I
performance.
still find it very, very funny that Priscilla walks out to the zombie song, the
Oh,
Korean
does she?
zombie
I didn't even
song,
hear.
whatever the fuck that shit's called.
Yeah. That song is reserved for one man and one man alone, lady. You need to find a new
Well,
song.
here's the reason why it's preserved is because you come in here and you get finished, and it's like, well, fuck, mate, like you just ruined the song, but it's all right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the universe saying this is not your song.
True, absolutely. But this is the universe telling everybody that Chelsea Chandler is back and she is coming with a vengeance. And Thinker, I hate to break it to you, brother, but sometimes it feels good to be right, I don't know.
I said it on the watch long. I said, congratulations for this correct prediction here. I will go with it, to an extent. It depends on who she's going to go up against.
It could be the best in the
Condition and
division,
all that.
apparently.
True. Yeah. I mean, well, they shoot her right up to the top. It's an Wild West when it comes to
True.
bantamweight. So, but yeah, we shall see. We shall see when it comes to Chandler. If this is the turning point, then great. I'd prefer not to be the person out here trying to be inflammatory towards these fighters. I want all of them to be their best and put on the best performances possible. So continue to do that. Conversation changes completely, and we can put the entire history of everything that I've said before behind us, and we never have to see her do the temple run again.
100%. Yeah.
Good deal. All right. Well, before we move on to the next one, got to give a huge shout out to Jeremy Hall checking in. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being here. Moving on to the next fight, however, Bruno Silva, he fought Édgar Cháirez. This was another one you were correct about. This was one that, like you said in the last fight, who knows, going into it, how exactly that was going to work out. I think it worked out exactly as it should have. this fight here, this was one that I was kicking myself for not believing in Édgar Cháirez. He looked really, this was really, really great work. Certainly made a believer out of me and all of the other doubters from the last fight who may have been a little bit skeptical based on that performance.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, if you took that last performance and you were if that made you lose stock and it didn't resonate well, I can completely understand. But Édgar Cháirez is somebody, guys with high finish rates, they're not dime a dozen anymore, but guys who are able to they fight like they have a finish rate, that's high. A lot of people they settle for decisions once they get to a certain point in the organization. They're not as hungry. Édgar Cháirez, genuinely, other than the last one, I get that. It didn't seem the same type of vibe that we've seen him with CJ Vergara versus fucking Bruno Silva, of course. This dude, I mean, he wants to fight, and I really appreciate he has the tools to be very dangerous. It's not, the Dominic Cruz was talking about, it's the arms, the reach. He's got really the jab. It doesn't just touch Bruno Silva. Like it's Édgar Cháirez's range. It's almost like he was able to punch through Bruno. He had that much more extra length on him. Like Bruno was, and then at a certain point he realized, like, man, I gotta just blitz him on the inside, and this is exactly where Édgar Cháirez was, starting to mix in the uppercuts. He was feinting it a lot. It's unfortunate that Bruno finally got hit by it. Back when it was Charles Jourdain and Davey Grant when he kept doing the flying knee, and then it finally gets him with the flying knee. It's like, did you not think he was going to throw it a fifth time? Like, I get it. It is what it is. But Bruno Silva, I think time and a place for him. He's at a point in his career. He's a lot older. Édgar Cháirez is more hungry, and listen, he's lost in the UFC specifically, and regionals. That's different. Everybody has a turning point. He has lost to Josh Van and Tatsuro Taira. That's the list in the UFC that he's lost to right now. So Édgar Cháirez potentially still has a lot to prove. But he's ranked now. This is going to be 15, and he's a killer, man. He's somebody that he's got so many different tools. The striking, of course, leads the fight, but his grappling is just as fucking dangerous. That's the craziest part.
Yeah. Absolutely, it is. I mean, really, this fight for basically exactly what you just said was like exactly the showcase that you needed to see to know that to be the truth. It's like you said. I mean, Silva was having a heap of trouble getting past the range of Édgar Cháirez's striking. I mean, the jab was always there for him. Silva gets dropped that first time. It's like, oh no, now it's time to level change, perhaps. But then he tries for the level change, easily thwarted by Cháirez. Now you've got real problems, and that just ended up being the story of this thing. And of course, that uppercut that finally did drop him the second time was so clean. I was like, man, that, getting the drop off the uppercut, like, when you're mixing up your striking in general, like there's always the potential for that one shot just to catch you, right? I mean, that's just going to be, any strike could potentially do that. But you see the boxing that Cháirez has and the power that he puts on the shot, plus the placement of the uppercut. Like, you don't necessarily see. I mean, like, it does happen, of course. I mean, a solid uppercut will do it. Francis Ngannou and Alistair Overeem, right? I mean, you certainly can do it, but to do it at flyweight, like, it just, I mean, like, it really looked spectacular from Cháirez. It was such a clean shot. I was very like impressed with that placement of it. And then it turned into a legit club and sub. I mean, Cháirez found the sub so quickly and efficiently after the drop. That's exactly what you do. I mean, it's like flyweight. We talk about the speed of flyweights all the time. This is the fastest pace in combat sports, in my opinion. Flyweight MMA right here and at the UFC level. If you are not fighting at this speed, it is noticeable when you're at flyweight. We talk about the guys where we're like, he doesn't really move like a flyweight. He's not really fast like a flyweight. This is exactly how you have to be. You have the hand speed to do it. You have the power to do it. You have the placement to do it. And then you have the wherewithal and the killer instinct to have your speed pick it up on the other side. So club and sub worked out perfectly here. Cháirez, it looked amazing. This was really like the exact performance that I needed to see to be like that. He is that
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, absolutely.
No, 100%. This has been one of my favorite fighters. He has put on a lot of, not a lot of great performances. I think back to the Sphere, him and Josh Van. This is one of my favorite fights of all time. I mean, he almost finished Josh Van with a spinning elbow. I mean, like he wobbled him. It was a crazy back and forth. I mean, and to think, Josh Van is now the champ. And it was a loss on his record, but he didn't get finished like like Tyra did, and Tyra beat him, and Herb Dean had to tell Tyra how to beat Cháirez. I'll get, that's a different fucking story, but Cháirez, he's taller, he's got range, he's got the length to keep up with it, he's got the grappling. He really does seem like kind of the when you see the takedown defense after he dropped him. I mean, it looked, obviously those aren't the cleanest takedown attempts, and we'll have to see somebody who's relentless when it comes to takedowns against him. But for what it looked like, guys, this guy he's a package. This guy's fucking good. I appreciate him. And if you guys didn't know, check out the tattoo. He's got that fucking dog in him.
Yeah, in him and on him.
Yes.
Very true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I always like to believe that he pets his side every time that he wins,
Absolutely.
just to pay homage there. So shout out to him, and shout out to his grandfather that helped him out. I always think that that's a great story when it comes to Cháirez.
He gave him the truck, right? Or something like that. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Cháirez, kind of guy you want to root for. I mean, he seems like a good dude, and obviously fights at the caliber that you want to see in this organization. So, really, I see good things in his future. I definitely be rooting for him going
Another
forward.
thing that I think is interesting about Cháirez, specifically, to what he represents. He was representing Mexicali, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Don't see that very often. That's just interesting to note. I just find it.
Well, that's a place in Mexico.
We don't see that very often. I don't fucking know where it's at, but hey, he represents Mexicali, and I love it. So
Yeah, well, there you go. How about that? Good putting Mexicali on the map.
exactly.
I can appreciate it. Yeah, good job there, Édgar. And yeah, I mean, like you said about Bruno Silva, I probably should have known. You know what I mean? I'm okay with not getting that one right and kind of kicking myself about it. But yeah, I was just happy that he didn't come in with a back full of acne. That was something that was people were concerned about. So clean back, good, gets clubbed in.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one here. Marcus McGhee, he fought Yannis. This fight really went pretty exactly as predicted, I think. I mean, we both had said that this was kind of going to be the type of fight that it was. Yannis delivered, I think, better than maybe some people were thinking he might have. I thought he held his own pretty well in this fight in the big picture, but Marcus McGhee, as clinical, technical, proficient in his striking as he always is, the exact type of pace that you would expect. I really don't think that there were many curveballs that I saw in this fight, but a good fight nonetheless.
This was a pretty good fight. I think for John Yannis, I mean, to have 3 fights in the organization, or 2 fights in the organization up until this point, not a lot to lose getting this opportunity. It is a very big step up in competition. So for them to give him this opportunity, for them to ask Marcus McGhee to take, the risk here, if you lose to this guy, I mean, what's there to say?
Yeah, when he even said that in his post fight, he was like, "Yeah, I mean, I should probably be fighting top 15 guys. This is a little bit of a disrespect." And I was like, "You're not wrong. I mean, this dude is, a guy gets the win over the guy who was, had just coming back into combat sports. This was it was a slight slap in the face to Marcus McGhee if you really think about it. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean
No, you're absolutely, you're fine. This proved that John Yannis is, I mean, he's capable. And I'm not saying that he is 100% safe from a fraud check, because I think it is more evident. It's more possible now. He jumps right into the fucking, close to the rankings picture. He gets one more win, and then he unfortunately gets smoked out by somebody who's probably, Austin Bashie already submitted him, and this is an unranked guy as well. So what is there to say? I mean, his striking is definitely the caliber that stands with a 15th, or not 15th, whatever Marcus McGhee is, a ranked opponent at the time of right now. I think John Yannis, I think the striking numbers are actually doing him a disservice for the entirety, for both of them, really. I thought they did a very good job. It was more I go, you go, but John Yannis really, I mean, for what Marcus McGhee is doing, the entire fight is just setting up, execute, and then by the 3rd round, he's all loose, and he won the fight, he's skating by. But John Yannis did a good job of not getting caught in the traps. He kept the fight to a point where it's like, they're striking, he could still land something. I'm not necessarily thinking he's going to knock him out, but in any fight, a puncher's chance is there, and he was still standing toe to toe with the ranked opponent who has had not plenty of experience, because he's also somebody who got kind of jumped into a picture that was way out of the realm that it should have been. But so with that being said, I mean, he held his own against somebody who was also in the same position as he was. So it's good on Marcus McGhee for giving somebody in a similar position the opportunity that he was gifted, I would say. So, uh, good fight from John Yannis and Marcus McGhee. Nothing too crazy. They make it seem like he missed a lot of his fucking shots with these stats, but I mean, it was a really good, clean performance from Marcus McGhee, which it should have been, and it was, unfortunately. But John Yannis, I took a round off of a ranked guy in one judge's eye. So there's something to hang your hat on at the door. So
Yeah, I can go with that. I mean, based on what we kind of thought was going to happen, that is a silver lining way to look at it for sure. I just thought that Giannis was just not able to mount an offensive strategy that was comparable. You
mm,
know what I mean? That's the big note, really. And like I said, unfortunately, kind of expected. Marcus's output is just consistent, and that's like one of the greatest strengths that he has. It's like when you have that level of just repetition in the striking, even like I do, seeing the numbers, like you said, I mean, 79 significant strikes landed with 202 attempted does seem a little bit off. But over the course of the fight, in the positions that they end up in, maybe it's, I don't know. We always talk about how off the numbers seem, but either way, the consistency is generally there. The movement is always there. He's got good footwork on top of the solid striking. When that's the case, you're gonna fall behind pretty quickly. Like unless you are actively trying to overtake, and that's going to be a note, coming up in a later fight as well. That I'll have, where you have a person who is just they have a definitive game plan, they have a definitive style that works for them very well, and they lock in. That's another thing about Marcus McGhee that I have always liked. I noticed this about Marcus McGhee. I think in the very first fight that he had in the organization, I was like, this guy defines the flow state to me. Like when he locks in, like he is just right in there. Like it is always clicking when he gets off to the races. Like he gets himself into a flow state that he can just stay in very soundly. Really, no distractions. You have to throw some like tremendous curveballs to even frazzle him in any way. Like he's just a guy who's the consistency is key for him, and that's just going to be a huge problem for anybody who's trying to figure it out in the moment.
what I will say about Marcus McGhee is somebody needs to tell him to lay off the spinning shit because that was real. That was a little too much. I mean, I get you want to get a fucking highlight, you want to get a knockout, but brother, 7 spinning back kicks and not one of them was. He literally just walked the other direction every time. Like it was. Anyway, John Giannis, I think what speaks to why or how he would get a position, opportunity like this. If I'm not mistaken, this is the guy who had spent some time in prison, correct, or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So
Yeah.
Dana White loves his stories, So giving a guy an opportunity like this, imagine if he becomes champ. That's a story kind of deal. So it doesn't lose his stock that he lost to Marcus McGhee in this fashion. I think if anything, it showed that he's a very formidable guy when it comes to the striking. He is I mean, he wants to be here. He knows where he came from. He would not like to go back, I would say. So this is a perfect outlet for him, for a good career choice. And shout out to him. I mean, I think Dominic Cruz said another thing about this fight is John Giannis, he was doing good when the fight was brought to him. Instinctually, he had the fight. Like the striking was there. So when Marcus McGhee came in with a flurry, he would slip, he would rip, he would do the right stuff. But when it came to the offense, like you were saying, he just didn't have he couldn't figure out the chess match in front of him, but the chess match coming back to him. He moved his way through that very well, I would say. Didn't take real damage, I
Sure.
would say either.
Yeah, well, it was that type of fight where, I mean, there was a lot of tagging. So, I mean, I see Johnny the God saying that, it seemed like McGhee might have been a little hesitant to throw any like big shots. I don't know if I necessarily go with that 100%. Like, I think it was just the type of fight that they were in didn't necessarily lend itself to that. And also, McGhee is not really that type of guy either. It's like he's not really a bomber kind of striker. Like, he really is just the machine type of striker, repetition, again, like I liken his style to like when you see the cogs in a machine going round and round, it's just like that, where it's like, okay, you flip the switch on and it's just
Yeah.
just that now you're in the motion, you're in the cycle there. So, I mean, maybe that would be something that, could benefit him, is maybe taking a little bit more of a chance on some bigger shots there that are not those spinning attacks that you're talking about. That might be the better way to go. But for what he does, I mean, like he really is just very, very quality. Like within that box. I think that getting outside of that box might be like the next step for him if he wants to do that. But he is an older guy in the sport. He had his shot at kind of being higher up in the rankings. He does, like you said, he does want to be fighting top 15 guys. So, I would guarantee you that his next opponent will be a top 15 guy. Do that, either evolve the style that little bit, or just be comfortable being like, a guy who can win this level of fight, probably maybe a step higher, but your ceiling's going to kind of cap around there. I would
His
say.
only loss to date, in the UFC, of course, is the current champ. So it is what it is. Shout out Marcus McGhee. Hopefully he's able to get another opportunity towards the top of the division that he deserves. Cheeto Vera. We need him gone, I would say. So Marcus McGhee, just figure out what you can do to get yourself closer to getting another opportunity at the belt. You don't have much time. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but you are an aged fighter as it is. You gotta pick up the pace a little bit. And what I will say as well is Marcus McGhee, shout out the skateboard king of UFC.
Well, I was going to ask you, Chase. I mean, as a person who has an interest, you play the skate video game. Do you think that Marcus McGhee is the best skater in the UFC, as he said?
I have seen clips of him at real skate parks doing some pretty crazy stuff. Like Jalen Turner is also somebody who is a skater, and I've seen him, and I'm like, okay, that's like what I would expect. Somebody who can who's a skater, but like Marcus McGhee, that dude might be legit. They even said he was he was an amateur skater or something at the time. Like I think they said he had some route in skating, I believe, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But no, he's pretty solid. I don't know about the
Yeah, I
game.
mean,
I'd probably smoke him in a throwdown or something. But hey,
well, Marcus McGhee, if you're listening, there's your call out right there. Play the skate video game.
oh yeah,
Did you say that he does play the skate video game?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't get to play with him yet, but one day, guys, one day.
All right. Well, we got to make that happen. So, Marcus, Chase wants that smoke.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one here, and the featured prelim here. Of course, we're tearing through this card, but there are a lot of finishes, and this is kind of a quicker one. So we are up to the next in the featured prelim. This is Matt Schnell versus Alessandro Costa. Of course, there is. I mean, controversy depends on who you're talking to about this. But Chase, go ahead and say your piece, because I know you got a lot of thoughts about this one.
I think, just in my mind, obviously we're going to talk about the defining thing that happened in this fight. We had a fight between Costa and Schnell. Costa lands a big shot. Matt Schnell goes chicken leg, shoots a takedown. That is where we're at up until this point. Now, Costa is hammer fisting the side of Matt Schnell's head, and the fight gets stopped, and Matt Schnell continues to roll with the whatever. In my opinion, from everything that I've seen, all of these, and these could be viewed a different way. I understand, the wrestling after the ref stops. Oh my God, he was so concussed. He had no idea where he was at. I will get to this point. But there's things that can be viewed in a different lens. And I think optics are everything. So the first thing that stands out to me is why I don't think this was what again, an extra second longer, who knows what could have happened. I'm just saying, from my point of view, it seemed a little early because, yes, he gets wobbled, but he shoots a takedown, which people said he wasn't intelligently defending himself. Okay, he shoots a single leg takedown, and he is holding on to the leg. His head is turned inward to where he's not taking the punches on his face. And then this is where I'm confused on where these are legal shots, because when you're watching it, you can see where his hair pattern starts in the back of his fucking head. That's why I'm confused on, okay, if these are legal to some people, at least some of them were not, because the only thing I can see is the back of his head, really. And intelligently defending himself, while he is turning away from the shots, holding on to a takedown attempt. And then you would say, well, he's taking unnecessary shots and he's not doing anything to advance the position. If you are to believe Matt Schnell, which I am in this situation for the instance, if he is not, as hurt as you would believe, he's not unconscious from these shots, why should I have to change the position if most of these, again, and I haven't even brought up the main thing, why would I change positions, which if most of these shots that are landing are hitting my shoulder first, and then they would, roll on to, yeah. It's the same thing as like rolling a, like if you take the impact on one portion, the second portion that it hits is not necessarily going to be as impactful. And to the point of him wrestling after the fact when the ref stops it, I think there is a point to, if I am completely, not completely, of course, wobbled, but if I am still in the headspace that the fight is still going on, I would be probably thinking, I can't believe you stopped the fight right there. Like, that's why I think he continued going. It's like, there was no fathomable way for him to think that you would stop the fight if I'm indeed not hurt, not moving because the shots are not hitting me directly, and if they are potentially to the back of my head. I I think there's just a lot of things in my point of view that I would say interesting stop, maybe could have went a little longer, or we could have said, hey, back of the head, back of the head, watch the back of the head, to where then he would have to switch what he's doing instead of continuing to smash the only portion of his head that is visible, which had to have been the back of his head. Now, I would also like to point out, I showed my father this clip, and he did not agree with me. So he is on your guys' side. That was a fair stop. He was out, and I'm like,
Well,
let me reiterate the
yeah, yeah.
main thing before I let you go is, then this is what I
Mhm.
think is most crucial. The shots were hitting his arm and shoulder first. That's what I think is key here. So go on.
Okay. So just to address all of these things, then, in some type of fashion, as I always say, the Mohawk zone is the barometer for back of the head. It is not just anywhere in the region of the behind your head, behind your ears. It is the specific zone. So the metric that I have always been told, and what I use as my own barometer as well, is you throw the C up like you're cripping. Take the C, put that on your neck, and you run that up and up to the top of your head. That is what they call the Mohawk zone. That is where strikes are illegal. Anything outside of that is a legal strike. Behind the ear is a legal strike. That is where they looked like they were landing to me. So you're getting shots to that portion, which is basically behind the ear, the jutting out bone, where your skull kind of juts out a little bit, right in that area. Now, if you're listening only, you're not seeing where I'm pointing, but basically, if you're wearing headphones, just right behind where the headphone would be is where the shots look like they were landing. Whether they're hitting the arm or not is almost irrelevant to it if they're legal strikes and he's not moving. He did get wobbled, like you said. It went down off of that. And then he stayed in that position face down, so the referee is not able to see his face. But even if the referee could see his face, I think that the thing that makes the most sense to counter your arguments here is that if he had been face up and taking that same amount of damage, not doing anything, we see fights get stopped all the time with people in that exact same type of situation where they're covering up, they're turtling up. Now, granted, he wasn't turtling up, but like if he had been, if he was on his back face upward and he had his arms over here and he was just getting punched through his hands, that's still a stoppable moment.
They
So
would have got
that's my
longer in
point with
that
all this.
situation, I think, is my point. I don't think there was equality given here, because in even right after the stop, everybody's like, "Yeah, you can't let Matt Schnell go on. You know it's Matt Schnell. He gets knocked out. You got to." It's like, no, Matt Schnell deserves the exact opportunity that we have seen other people get, and that's why I brought up the Manuel Torres and Drew Dober gif. If you guys, if you were in the Discord and you saw this,
Right.
they let that go on for fucking 20 fucking seconds, and the dude was damn near dead after. And in the moment, I think we even argued that it might have been a little, but brother, when I watched it that time in comparison to this, that was a person who was getting destroyed by punches, going limp, versus a guy who was holding on for dear life, yes, but we've seen fights get like I brought up Marwan Rahiki. This dude would not even be in the organization if we gave the same amount of love on the stoppages to what Matt Schnell got. He wouldn't even be in the organization right now. It's because he would have got finished in the first round. Like, that's the craziest thing to think about, is some people get more opportunities. That's all that I'm saying.
No, and I get that, and I also want consistency in the way that these things are applied. I completely understand that as well. But I think under the circumstances, the difference is that you have a person who had just been wobbled, so you already have that in the mind of the referee. It makes sense. He cannot see the face at that point, and all you're seeing is a motionless person taking these shots to the side of the head. All of those things equal up to a good stoppage at that point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that all kind of tracks, like, under the circumstances.
And see, and I agree with that point because I even brought that up. I think you can trick the ref sometimes. Like the ref can be wrong, and I think this is one of those cases where he was spamming enough punches where the ref kind of felt bad in a sense, but from a viewer who's watching, and when you watch the replays, I think it's even more when because I was in your stream and I'm like, you got to watch the replay, man. Wait for him to show the angle where I'm literally hitting his arm. And then they didn't show that angle of they showed every other angle of the replay, but not that one up after the finish, which I find interesting. They even showed an angle which had Matt Schnell's face,
I
and
saw that one. I know the one you're talking
his
about.
eyes never roll back. And again, the ref is
Yep.
not supposed to be under the fucking canvas looking at, obviously, but I think there is an element to the ref can be wrong and he can be, in a sense, fooled that there's something more happening than there is, I would say.
But again, no, I don't. But that's what I don't think the ref is wrong though, is because I'm saying that like if you're in that position and you're not doing anything to counteract what is happening to you under those circumstances as they were, that is the right call. That's the right thing to do because it's like it's not the ref's place to then to say, oh, is he going to like because look at it from the other side. I always say that's the other thing to the other way to look at it is like had he just let him take 10 more shots in that same position and Matt Schnell did not do anything still at that point, then it's like, oh damn, dude, this ref really just let him die out there. He was really just letting him, take all of these unanswered shots. So it's like a lose-lose situation in that point. Like I think that, like, again, you don't have to be knocked out to not be intelligently defending. I think that's the other point that CTE made. Shout out to CTE.
Again, I just don't get the intelligently defending portion because when you have somebody who is shooting a takedown, okay, he's there. He's in the fight still. He is shooting a takedown. He has got a grip around one leg. And then also to the point where if you are on the fighter's side who does not believe that it should have been stopped, I bode the question. If the shots are hitting his arm, again, you as the ref, if you think that that's what's enough to stop the fight, I'm gonna side with the fighter here who was upset at the stop. Why would I stop attempting my single leg takedown if you're hitting me in the arm? And that's what I'm seeing. It's like, bro, he's smashing his shoulder. Okay, a few got through, but it's not like 10 unanswered shots to the back of the head. And then when it's like, I mean, if it did happen, I'm still sitting here watching them hit his arm first. So from the fighter who is saying it shouldn't have been stopped, from me thinking that it should not have been stopped. Again, I could see it from the other point of view, and yeah, he's sure. I mean, again, but the thing that I'm saying is the ref was played here. It was not the most brutal beatdown that you guys have ever seen. I think we're blowing it out of proportion.
But I think you're blowing the single leg out of proportion too. I mean, like I think that he did go for the leg, but then Costa laid on him and was beating the side of his head. The single leg attempt was over at that point.
No, the most conclusive evidence to me is that the shots were not landing clean. I mean, arguably 3 of them, sure, but out of the 15 that he threw, I'm watching them hit his arm. Like I genuinely am watching a fist hit an arm. And that's
But again, what does that matter if he's landing shots that are not being responded to? It doesn't matter what part of the body it's hitting. Why is that playing into the fact that he's not doing anything?
I just think we would have a problem if you saw somebody getting held up against the cage and somebody spammed thigh punches, and because he didn't answer back, that's a TKO. We would have a problem with that. And that's the way that I'm seeing it. If he's getting hit in the arm, there's no TKO that's like applicable here. I don't know. That's the way that I was seeing it. If he's getting hit in the back of the head from the only visible point, again, you're talking about the mohawk. Again, if he's like this with his head pointed out, a fist is only so big. A skull, a fist with a glove on it. There's only, if his head is turned away from the punch, again, intelligently defending, should he have done nothing? I don't, where was Matt Schnell going to win here is my question, because it looked like to me
he wasn't.
No, win as in getting an opportunity because I'm getting punched in my arm, I'm on a single leg. Why would you stop this fight? Again, the ref can be wrong. I think he misinterpreted a bunch of back smashing. He's smashing him. It's like, again, if you watch the replay, and again, the ref doesn't have replay in the moment, but I would hope that he could see what I was seeing, which is the fist hitting his shoulder, and it may have rolled onto his head, but these are not life damaging, these are not life altering things happening here, I think. And and I'm not even the biggest fan of Matt Schnell. This is what the point comes down to too. It's like, I would do this for any fighter. It's not just because I love Matt Schnell and I'm the biggest fan of Matt Schnell. It's because I want, when my fighter has the opportunity to fight back and they don't give it to him, I want to be able to fucking say some shit about it. Because if I didn't say it about Matt Schnell, I can't say it about Josh Van. I can't say it about Édgar Cháirez. I can't say it about anybody if I don't bring up the fact that Matt Schnell, in my personal opinion, should have gotten a little longer. But that's just me.
I mean, I hear what you're saying on this, but I just don't know how much longer, like what more you needed to see, I think is the issue. Because like I said, if you'd gone longer, then it would be the other side of the coin where it's like, damn, he really let him take all of those
To the
shots. Like
arm.
it's like,
That's what I would say. I was like, he let him take all those shots to the arm. Like, and in my personal opinion, if the ref was saying back of the head, hey, back of the, watch the back of the head, because that is where it was applicable to say that. Then Costa would have actually had to do something different than just spamming a shot that is hitting the arm and also arguably illegal. That's my point here. So
well, I mean, wasn't it Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje where the head kick was blocked? That still knocked him out.
but this
So I
didn't
mean,
knock Matt Schnell out though.
well, but I mean, the point is that the shot, like you're saying, that there's a barrier between the intended target point and something blocking that. But obviously, the impact was still there. So again, from the ref's perspective, you have a fighter not doing anything. You have shots being landed, whether they are landing on flush or if they are landing through another part of the body. They're still going to the intended target. They're like I said, I mean, based on where I was seeing them land, they were landing in a spot that is a legal spot to be landing shots, and from my perspective, and he was doing it multiple times. I mean, I think that's also something you're underplaying here. I mean, like there was a lot of opportunity for Schnell to have done something, to have changed, to have done anything in that position. I mean, like he had how many shots was it? Like probably 15. I mean, or maybe 10, 15, 12.
Yeah, but you're saying he had enough time to do something different. The fight was ended within 3 to 4 seconds of when he shot the double leg. Like, I mean, he's concussed, he shoots, and then it's over. I mean, he did exactly what he needed to do as a fighter to get him out of the position where he was already losing. And I mean, this is not the first time that Herb Dean has just made a mistake, guys. He literally thought Robbie Lawler was unconscious against Ben Askren, and that is a thing that happened. Fight ended because of that. I'm not saying this is anything like that, but I think the ref can be wrong sometimes. That's just my personal opinion. I think maybe me and Matt Schnell should go have a drink, and we'll talk about how Herb Dean fucked him over in his retirement fight or whatever. But listen, we've seen crazier and that's the thing too, is like people are like, yeah, it's Matt Schnell, he's dead to rights, obviously he's gonna lose. How many fucking comebacks do you have to see, man? Like,
Right. But see, that doesn't, yeah, that does not play. And I agree with you. Consistency. I agree that consistently there should be more consistency. Consistency is something I value as well. I think that Matt Schnell's biggest asset in this whole conversation is the fact that he did try to continue after the fact. You know what I mean? Like he at least had the wherewithal to know that there is at least a case to be made that this exact conversation could happen because he took the action post stoppage that he did. Had he just stood up and then, oh man, that was, damn, why'd you stop it kind of thing? No, he actually continued the wrestling sequence to give the impression.
well,
That I
and
think
it's
is
not
where, he gets this
it's
leeway.
actually not even a joke, because the funny thing about I didn't even bring this up because this is clear cut evidence that he didn't even know the fight was over, because the ref touched Costa. He touched him. Get off. So Costa gets up, and then we continue wrestling. He doesn't know the fight's over because the ref doesn't ever fucking stop him. He stops Costa, gets him off. Costa lets up, and then he goes. So I just, there's just too many. So he wasn't even aware that the fight was supposed to be over, and it's not because it was him just being out of it. The ref never touched him. The ref never stopped him. So I just, there's too many things that, in my eyes, could be a reason why I would say this is not the best stoppage. But if I'm the only one on the planet, me and Matt Schnell, that is okay, I guess.
All right. Well, I mean, we've talked it through. Chat's got a number of different opinions about it. So, based on the conversation and what you've seen in that fight, if you did watch it, then you can draw your own conclusion based on what we have said and the evidence on both
See,
sides,
and then here
perhaps.
we go. But it's just Matt Schnell doesn't have the tools to beat Costa. So we stop it early.
Right. Again, no, see, yes. Now, and that's where I completely agree with you, Chase. You can't have selectiveness based on the fighter. What fighter is in the fight has no bearing on how the rules should be administered. That I can certainly agree
Yeah,
with.
that's my biggest thing is I have to be on Matt Schnell's side here because if I'm not, there's no way that I can talk about my favorite fighter when it happens because then I'm a hypocrite. I didn't say shit about the dude who didn't fucking matter, but I'll make it my most prized possession when it comes to the fighter that I love, and that's the problem sometimes is people don't have the across the board representation of what they believe in. Matt Schnell is a professional. He's been here a long time. Just because he's been here a long time and you've seen him in some pretty rough scrapes doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve to get 2 more seconds like everybody else. I go back to Marwin Rahiki, but I will leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and had it gone on for a couple more seconds, I would not have been mad at it either. Like, I guess that should be my also, contribution to that side of the coin. Yeah, if he had given him that extra couple of seconds or whatever, like, it would not have been like dramatically worse, in my opinion. Like, I do think that like it was kind of a definitive stoppage that could have probably had a little bit more, but I was very okay with how it all
Now
went
that I
down.
think about it too, I don't even think I even heard Herb yell, "Fight back, fight back, show me something." Like we often normally get something, but I digress. I feel like there was a lot of things that were some missteps here, maybe, but that's okay.
Fair enough. All right. Well, then there you have it. I mean, either way, though, stoppage aside,
Johnny the
what's up?
God, here we go. Thank you for bringing up Muhammad fucking Yahya. If we got the same opportunities that Muhammad Yahya got, brother, I tell you, we'd never fucking see these dudes fucking die in the cage. Come.
The difference is, though, is Muhammad. And I say this about that all the time. The difference is Muhammad Yahya popped right the back up, though. Yeah, he popped right the fuck up every time he was
Yeah,
dropped.
but the thing is if bro would have just jumped on him and spammed little pitter patty punches that wouldn't have done anything, the ref he would have rightfully been like, oh, he's done. But he would have probably gave him a fucking 12-second timer on it, like fight back, whatever. But Matt Schnell, I'm happy to stand up for you. I hope when it comes down to the fact that it's somebody that I really, really like, that I'm gonna have the same fucking energy. I'm gonna have 10 times more because I'm gonna bring it up. This is exactly what happened with Matt Schnell, but that's fine. Hey, for the longest time, I was telling you guys it was an early stoppage with Josh Van and Charles Johnson. Here we are. Here the fuck we are. They didn't give him the opportunity to fight back and show what a champion he was. And now look, he didn't even fucking need it. So I guess destiny's on the side, anyways. Case closed.
Well, yeah, perhaps for Van, but that was going to be my final note is stoppage aside, Matt Schnell really should have stayed retired and go to the PFL or whatever the hell difference needs to be made for Schnell because I mean, whether it was this or something else, again, stoppage aside, yeah, bad stoppage, good stoppage. This probably, I mean, the way that he got rocked, I mean, like Matt Schnell should have just stayed retired, bro.
Since we have extra time, I think it's actually really key that I bring this up because I posted the clip, a Matt Schnell versus Sumer Darji or whatever. I had never seen this shit. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. This dude was getting wobbled all over the place. And I don't just mean wobble, but like I truly believe scientifically there's got to be something up with Matt Schnell. Like, and maybe and hear me out. This is what I was thinking because I was thinking about it all day. Like, what could be the reasons? Like, is he just not hydrated enough? Like when he comes into these fights, that the equilibrium is just way off when he gets hit. Sometimes. But I think it's when you watch him in this fight, I feel like he's always just spring loaded full of his energy. Like he's locked in. So anytime he gets hit really, really hard, it like knocks the fucking wind out of him. And he's just like noodle legged all over the place. Cause like in this fight, he's just so all his energy is just like all in the motion that he's ready to drop at any and it's like I have no idea how or why Matt Schnell could get wobbled so tremendously bad in so many different fights, but to that point, he is a fucking Chad and a warrior. Respect to taking this fight on short notice and retiring out on top, in my opinion. I got to give you the last steak right there, brother. You're welcome.
There you go. Exactly. The Chase, the champion of fighters like Matt
Mhm.
Schnell.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. Well, shout out to Costa though, because I mean, really everything leading up to that was all him. So I got it. Like this fight, there really wasn't. We didn't talk about anything else in this fight really because there was not much else to talk about. This was kind of a slow fight up until that moment. So, Costa made it happen, and this was a solid win for him, regardless of those circumstances. I think that most people probably think that this was an okay stoppage, but if regardless of the controversy or lack thereof, whatever, whichever side you fall on that, shout out to Costa for getting the job done. And like you said, though, I do acknowledge as well. Shout out to Matt Schnell for taking it on short notice. But 17-11 now, brother. Like you already had the out. You should have just taken the out that you had.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. Shout out.
Sure. All right. Well, fair enough there. Let's move on to the next one here and starting the main card. This was a lot more clear cut. This was Ivo Baraniewski. I keep saying Baranchevsky, but it is Baraniewski, I believe is our Baraniewski.
Baranetsky is, I
But
think, how Bisping
yeah,
says it or something.
something one of those. Take the pronunciation pick that you'd like. But Ivo Baraniewski versus Junior Tafa. I said breaking news, people. We got the first takedown attempt of Ivo's UFC career. So alert the presses. We finally saw at least one level change of some sort, but it didn't end up going anywhere. And then he TKO'd via calf kick, and that's pretty much all she wrote. I mean, it's hard to say whether or not this was Tafa really not being able to take the calf kick or if Ivo is just that much of a monster or both, but I'd say it's probably both.
Well, I'm gonna try not to spoil everybody's, vision of what Evo is. When I saw this fight and what I'm starting to see out of Evo, I'm getting worried. I'm getting not worried for what I'm seeing and like, man, it's just not what I think it needs to be, but it's looking a lot better than it should. And obviously the talent that it has been is a lot lower than the average light heavyweight competition, but he is finishing them in the first round. And the potential that he gets upset by the first guy who's decently competent is starting to grow because when we give him people like Austin Lane and Junior Tafa, there's a clear level difference when it comes to these guys and the next level up when you get to the ranked ones. And so I'm really worried what Evo's going to look like once he faces a guy who's actually good. And this is where I hate to break it because Junior Tafa, I said one of the worst things that you could do is leg kick him because in every one of his fights, he gets leg kicked to shit. He can't fucking move. He stands there and he just waits for his opponent to come to him. That's what he wants. He doesn't check him for a fucking reason, guys. I don't know if you knew this, but he he stands there, gets his leg kicked out from under him, and for the most part has done. He's still around in the UFC with that game plan, but the difference is Iwo actually was able to hurt his leg enough on 2 leg strikes, by the way, or 3, whatever it says here. 3 leg strikes, he was able to hurt him enough where he falls out of the fight, which we haven't seen yet, I don't think. I mean, he's been kicked to shit. I've even said before, like Junior Tafa is the dude that you got, like, he's hard not to root for because every time he starts the fight, you watch him have the style that doesn't work because he gets kicked in the leg every time and you see it on his face. It's like, man, you know that shit hurts. It's like, why don't you ever learn to fucking check him? And then he'll magically pull out the fucking win. But out of all the unlikely scenarios, he finishes him with the leg kick. So I don't know if Tafa, got a fracture or his leg broke or whatever the case may be, but Evo did what others have failed to do. And I would just say, I guess that is a hat in his cap there. He is the dude to leg kick the dude who gets leg kicked, but he was able to TKO him when other people couldn't. So the thing about his takedown, that was pretty goofy. Am I wrong to say this? Like he was standing there and it looked really slow the way he kind of just he grabbed off.
No, I don't really I don't really think he was trying
I
for it, to
don't
be
either.
perfectly honest.
But I was thinking to myself, like, now what if Tafa was like at all, what if he was one of those guys that is like, at any moment I have that power kind of deal, the He-Man shit. And Evo he just puts his hands down and charges in for the like he could have been just like instantly starched right there is my problem. It's like he had no idea to defend himself if something was coming. Now Tafa obviously didn't throw anything, but out of all the takedowns that he could have thrown, I was really worried about that one. Like, holy shit, please don't do that again. Please don't
Well, but see, I mean, and I see, chat's also saying it that concern about Evo, but we're talking like we haven't seen him in intense situations before. I mean, like he has gone through much more adversity and come out on top in a more of a firefight than this was. I mean, and it definitely more than Austin
You're
Lane.
not wrong, but so he starts out at Ebo Aslan, which from what it seemed to be, that was going to be his layup. They threw Evo in there to the Wolves because Evo was their guy, Turkish power, whatever you want to say. He comes in here, gets dropped. So, I mean, obviously they were at the highest moment right there. Like, Evo's back. And then Evo comes in with the upset, becomes this massive star kind of deal. But then we get Austin Lane on like his light heavyweight debut or some shit like that. And then we get fucking Junior Tafa. So the skill was up here when it came to not Ebo is more skilled than Tafa and an Austin Lane. Let me break it to you down like that. But now that the level of competition is it's not getting better or worse. I mean, Austin Lane, Junior Tafa, how much are we really splitting hairs here kind of deal? But Evo, like Hydra said, I think, yes, it's been too easy. And you're saying he's been through the fire. That first round with Evo was cool, but he's only been in the first round, guys. Like it's fight cardio, you can train for 25 minutes hard, as hard sparring as you want. But when the cage locks after that first 5 minutes, it's different. Being in an actual, especially if you get a first round like all of them have been. Imagine the person that makes it out of the first round. Evo's gonna have fucking fuck all probably. Like I don't know.
Well, see, but this is the thing though, is that this is all happening within the context of the light heavyweight division. And I have been saying for a while, light heavyweight is a division that needs to be taken and rebuilt. This just needs to be burned down and restructured from the ground up here. This is a division that is ripe for a complete sea change. So I'm okay if Evo is a person that starts that off or becomes one of the people that starts cleaning it out. I mean, he's kind of doing that to an extent a little bit already. There's so many people, like when you say, oh, what's going to happen when he goes up against somebody better or like, better level of competition. Who are we talking about? Nikita Krylov? We talking
He's
about,
coming off the win,
some other
dude.
people? Yeah, oh, I don't care. That proves my point even more. That proves my point even more. Coming off of a win over what in this division? I see what I'm saying. Like this division is just a bunch of like there's an elite at the top, a very little bit of elite at the top, and then everybody else. And all of that everybody else just needs to get freaking take a weed whacker and just cut off all of that fat from underneath and fill it with more people like an Evo and everybody else that's on the come up. It's ripe for a full on cleaning of house is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel like Hydra's really cooking here. The comp level, he says, I worry that the comp level went from 60 overall, which would be your Ebo Aslan kind of deal. Unfortunately, not the best, certainly, has some finishes. And then you get the 250 overalls with fucking Austin Lane and Junior Tafa. But then, yeah, like the skill level between what a Tafa and an Austin Lane and an Ebo, to be fair, like Nikita Krylov, you may hate that he won recently and he's still around, but he does have martial arts experience and skill. Tafa, as much as we want to believe that this he's a vet, he's been around the UFC for how long now? He's only got fucking 13 pro bouts. Nikita Krylov he's got a high finish rate and he's got experience. And Evo, a jump like that, even like a Dominic Reyes, like obviously the puncher's chance is there. But if the first rounds look like everything we've seen for Evo and somebody happens to make it to the second round, I just don't think Evo's going to have what he has in the first round for the second and third.
Well, and look, that's all fine to speculate on right
Mm.
now. Yeah, I'm okay with that being like the question. But the point is that we have seen the level of competition and what we get from the fighters that are currently above him. So that's my point, is that like all of those guys who you're constantly saying, man, I got to watch this guy fight again, or, oh, I can't believe that this guy's ranked, or why is he fighting this guy? I can't believe that they're both, still around, that kind of conversation. These are the fighters that need to backfill and eventually overtake them to rebuild this division. So whether he has problems going forward is like almost irrelevant to the conversation as far as I'm concerned. We need to have this level of type of person, whether it's him or other people people along the same lines, either more skilled, different skill sets, straight wrestler. Yeah, that would be great too. Point is that there needs to be more new blood in this division because of how stagnant this division has become. We're recently having that conversation about who should even be qualified to have the next title fight. Half the top 5 is coming off of losses. I mean, like the whole dynamic at light heavyweight is just ready for a complete overhaul. So it's irrelevant to me what the future could hold for Evo. The fact is he is getting himself into the conversation to be higher up. Send him the fuck up, and anyone else like him, send them up. Send everybody up into this division because it's not a great place right now.
So the next thing that I would say, and this is unfortunate because this is somebody that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I said I'm a believer in him. He had just jumped up to this division in light heavyweight, but for somebody like Evo, for how quickly his star power is rising, if he gets a fight like Apollo Costa, guys, I hate to say that he would dance around the outside of Evo. He's not even going to probably be able to get the first round kind of opportunities that he's normally has had because people will just stand in fucking front of him apparently and just willingly try to get punched by him or kicked by him. And Paulo Costa probably, I hate to say it, but he would probably win this fight. And that's just where we're at right now until we see more of Evo. But the only way we see more of him is if somebody is able to actually get with the program and take him into deeper waters. So it's going to continue to be interesting. I don't know if we're going to get that out of the veterans that we have in the division. This is what you were speaking about with the talent that we have right now. If they put him up against another prospect that somehow, some way, manages to take him into deep waters, I think that's more likely than expecting what we have at the top right now to do it. But Evo, all the best to you, man. I appreciate you. You are a star in the making. So continue what you're doing.
Yeah, the only other thing that gives me the same level of concern that you guys seem to have about it is in his post fight he was kind of saying like, "Oh, I don't even know what round 2 is, I don't know anything but round 1." I'm like, I don't like that kind of talk, that's a little bit of an overconfidence that probably is going to end up biting me in the ass potentially. But until it happens, like I said, this is if there was ever a person that I would be okay with a hot shotting happening, it would be Evo right now, based on what he has been doing. Send him up. If he ends up having those problems, that's fine. He probably ends up taking the loss, somewhere in the rankings and then has to hover in the middle for a little while until he gets with the program. But the program needs to fundamentally shift in the division. So I am okay with that starting now.
I kind of agree. So he had his little post fight scrum. And I don't, it was kind of a language barrier. His English is good. It's not great at some points. And so there was a point where he said, 9 fights, 9 finishes in the first round. I'm going to be a legend. And I was like, are we like, I mean, let's hold it all. Like, just please, like, just stay naive, I guess. But like, every 9 fights in the first round, honestly, ain't even all that yet. We have a lot of people who have done a lot of different things in the sport, so it's we are gonna have to find out, brother. Let me say that.
No, yeah, and I agree. And if he does end up getting checked, that's fine too. But like I'm just so dissatisfied with the quality of light heavyweight in general that like if this is going to be the catalyst for there to be change in general, we talk about like the generational shifts when it comes to divisions. Like I the one that sticks out to me that I always reference is welterweight when we went from the Kamaru Usman era into where we are currently, and how there was a little bit of a lull there. It kind of had to sort itself out, and then you end up now with this crop of killers. We've got the welterweight's like the most competitive division in the organization now to an extent. So like I think that we need something like that at light heavyweight. So if he's starting that off, or at least a part of that, then hopefully there are other fighters that continue to come up and build that division up into something that's actually worth caring about besides 3 to 4 guys at the
Yeah,
top.
100%. But shout out to Evo. Wish him all the best for real. Shout out Poland.
Yeah, and another easy first round win, which made it nice and quick, and again taking care of a Tafa. A bunch of these guys that are just kind of getting shaved off. I mean, both the Tafa's probably on the chopping block. It's amazing that Ty is still around. Obviously not a light heavyweight, but you know what I'm saying. It's like these are the things that are going to get some of these guys ushered out eventually. And it's nothing personal to these guys, but it's probably time for some of these dudes to be packing up.
Yeah, 100%. And Johnny the God here, kind of want to see Evo versus Renair de Ritter. Oh goodness. Oh, that's an easy one for him, I would say. Out of all the matchups, I would not say that's gonna pose a big threat, but I could be wrong.
It brings Rainier into a firefight, and he just starts breathing insanely heavy, and it starts the blood oxygen becomes the
Yeah,
issue.
literally.
Yeah, unfortunate with that. But either way, let's move on to the next fight here. This is Bryce Mitchell versus Santiago Luna. The question that I had to start this off, though, and this is external to the fight, but it is a question that I had, is how long do you think that Bryce is going to stay with the Thug Nasty nickname? Because you'd think at this point he might want to like change it to something more biblically motivated. I don't really know if Thug Nasty really fits him anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I don't, did it ever really fit him though? I think that's kind of like he did rap at
I
one
mean,
point. He,
I was going to
freestyled,
say.
but he's the camo shorts guy. He's always that's the reputation that he's left behind. He's the hunter killer kind of guy, whatever you want to say. But I don't know. I mean, do they still do they even call him Thug Nasty? I don't remember. Yeah, okay.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's why I remembered it, because I was like, oh yeah, he's still going by that.
Um, whatever he wants to go by in the future. Obviously, nicknames are given. They are not, you don't create your own. So we got to figure one out for him because Bible Thumper is a little too easy.
Not a bad one for him though. But anyway, yeah, that's just a little aside. But uh, everybody hated this fight. I did not think that this fight was
You
terrible.
you
I
rewatched
thought that this was not. I rewatched. I was in the moment watching it, and I rewatched it. I did not think that this was as bad as everybody else thought that it was. It ended in a finish, even though it was at the very, very end. I did say that that was kind of funny. Everybody's hating this fight, and then it finally ends with like 10 seconds left on the clock. I was like, bro, you really made us sit through that entire fight only to finish it with like 10 seconds left. That was pretty funny.
I'm actually I'll give you major props. You rewatched this fight if listen, bro. This in the moment, I can't believe there was not any times that the fight got stood up because they laid with each other for 22 minutes of this fucking fight. It felt like well, sorry, I'm 13. Excuse me, not a championship fight. Thank God. Oh brother. Um, but Bryce, I mean, what can you even say about a performance like this? Because we know Bryce can grapple, and hats off to him. He did his thing against the guy. What is there left to prove for Bryce Mitchell? I guess we know what type of fighter he's going to be. Him taking fights, it's just to determine what he is versus what we see with the opponent or whatever. I think Luna, uh, inexperience. I mean, there's not really much to chalk it up to this. I mean, you've seen this before. You'll see it again. A fighter who gets taken into a style that they don't have the capabilities to compete with yet. He may have 2 wins on his record. He jumped into the organization young or whatever. Or is it only one or is it two? Yeah,
Too.
okay, two. And they even said he was a Mexican wrestler, like a Olympic wrestler or something.
That was the thing that was most interesting to me. Yeah, he was like a 4-time Mexican wrestling champion of some
Yeah,
capacity. I don't know. It was definitely not Olympic level, but some champion of something in Mexico in wrestling. Obviously, did not have the answers for Bryce's level.
and so really, what can you do? I mean, he held on. If Bryce subbed him at the last 8 seconds, you would have to believe that he could have done it in the first 8 seconds. Not really, but you know what I mean. At any point, it seems like if you do it with that much time left, you probably could have worked towards it a little harder in the fight. Because what it seemed like to me is Bryce was, I mean, he's just chilling. Like he's just fucking chill. I don't know if you guys remember the Renier de Ritter and Brendan Allen fight. The remainder of the first round for like like last 2.5 minutes is just RDR holding him in like the position to get a sub, but he never worked towards it. And then the bell just rang and we both got up. And then, so Bryce just sitting on him in full mount with his legs laced up. Do something because you weren't striking. You weren't fucking throwing punches. That was the fucking most irritating part is like what Bryce was, he landed one elbow at the end of the first round or something. Everybody's like, good elbow. It's like, I just watched 5 minutes of fucking nothing. Are we serious? Like, what are we talking about? Like, Santiago Luna, arguably, and I hate to even bring it up, like he landed 112 strikes from his fucking back, and the dude sat on his fucking chest for fucking 11 minutes. I mean, he got the sub, but bro, maybe we needed Tony Weeks to come in here and judge this shit, man. Fuck.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, finish one way or another, of course. But yeah, look, it's like I had said, man. Bryce is gonna do Bryce things. Like everybody's all up in arms with this fight. Like this isn't how Bryce wins his fight. You know, I mean, like it's not fun. It might not be exciting, but it is a tremendous pain for a young up and comer, which is exactly what Luna is. This was the exact fight that was supposed to happen. The fact that he even finished this fight is, I think, something that like people should be a little bit more happy about, or at least taking as the silver lining of this whole
I
thing.
just find it interesting that Bryce Mitchell, this is the guy who gets on podcasts and says that Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is gay now. And this is the fucking performance that he gets with his Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. The country Jiu Jitsu is not fucking any better, brother. You're still cuddling with your opponent for 11 minutes and 40 seconds. Like, if you wanted to make me a believer that there was no pansy shit going around in your BJJ, round one submission, brother. No cuddling, no sitting with your nutsack on his chest, because I'm tired of seeing this. If there's going to be no strikes landed, there's going to be no submission attempted, and the ref is not going to give a fuck, bro. I'm tired of it. Like, Jesus, this fight was, somebody said in your chat, this was a Jailton Almeida performance. You're goddamn right it was. Except he got fucking 5 rounds to do it against Derek Lewis. That's the fucking part. That's the problem here. Jailton Almeida, Jesus Christ, I've seen him get a TKO victory. What is Bryce? I mean, he got a TKO against Chrome Gracie, I guess. Whatever, brother. I don't know.
Well, I mean, look, I think that the when it comes to any type of striking, yes, it would have been nice if Bryce had mixed in more striking on the ground. I think Bryce is a little like he's very he's conservative in his viewpoints. You know, politically, of course, he's conservative in his approach to fighting as well. I would say. I think that that's an accurate description. I think that he gets you into the position he wants you to be in and does not want to take any risk. And I think that that really holds him back and kind of makes all of the fight. The reasons that we feel that his fights are always very close is for that reason. I think that he is not a risk taker once he has something secured that he feels is a dominant position. It also goes to the fact that his striking is some of the most painfully awkward shit to watch on the planet. I was like, good thing he didn't do that much. But on the other side of that coin, everybody's getting up in arms about Bryce taking the easy way in this fight. To an extent, I understand. You know, I also would certainly admit this was not a crazy entertaining fight, but I didn't think it was as bad. But also, this cuts the other way. Luna, after round one, should have known that there needed to be adjustments, that he needed to go harder on the feet, that he needed to be like try to throw some kicks or something, like try to have any kind of like negation of what you know is coming. I mean, he had little flecks of success here and there. Like he reversed on the ground in round two, gets back to the feet and doesn't capitalize on the stand up. I'm like, bro, this is your chance to make something happen for yourself in this type of fight. You just saw all of round one what was going to be happening for rounds 2 and 3. By round 3, this should have been an entirely different conversation in his corner. I don't know what the exact thing to do is. How about some knees? If you know Bryce is going to be trying to level change, spam the knee high. Go for some crazy shit. I mean, like at least try something that is not going to end up with you having Bryce's nuts on your chest, as you said, because if you're not adjusting or making any kind of chance for yourself, you're not making any opportunity for yourself. This is exactly how this goes. So you might be upset with how Bryce chooses to go about securing a victory, but this was supposed to be a victory based on the dynamics of what Luna was bringing back.
I agree. You know, I blame Bryce Mitchell for this being a snoozer, because Santiago, at the end of the day, this is somebody who was 8-0. You know, I'm not going to sit here and expect him, you know, when things don't go his way, you know, some people figure it out, some people don't. Some people need they take the tape, you know, they got to rewatch and see what happens for them to make the improvements. Not everybody is on the fly just having everything, you know. So I think it was a moral defeat once he realized he was not going to be able to do anything in the grappling. You know, it was kind of just hope that we stand, and he didn't, and he took him down every time. And you saw Santiago Luna, there was times where he was able to have that burst and he was able to break away, but Bryce just had that know-it-all, like, if I just get the extra leverage here, you are not going to flip me over kind of deal. I'm still on your chest kind of deal. So I think this was a learning experience for Luna, but I think it was definitely on Bryce that it was 15 minutes of very boring grappling, because again, we've seen good grappling, guys. This was not a back and forth scramble match. This was one person getting a dominant position on the other person very easily, very consistently, and doing 0 damage and not many sub attempts with it. And that's what's really and that's why it is Bryce's fault, is because he had the opportunity to do the exciting things here. Ground and pound, submission attempts. He had free reign to do whatever. I've seen this dude pull off a twister. You're telling me he doesn't know how to do a fucking triangle choke now? You're sitting on his fucking chest. Do something, and you would lose the position, sure, but if you could get him back down to the ground, you're grappling so superior. Why am I waiting 15 minutes for you to do a random ass arm triangle that you literally could have fucking done the entire first fight? Like, I don't know. It's just interesting to me that I would blame Bryce for this for sure.
I mean, I was kind of, maybe going a little easy on Luna when it comes to the ground portion of things. Then, if he's not doing it on the feet, but I mean, that is kind of completely taking away any reverence for anything that Luna was doing on the ground as far as defense goes. I mean, granted, he was not reversing course, but he was able to thwart a lot of what Bryce was attempting. So, do you not give credit to that? I mean, you're making it seem like Bryce was, just able to say, get down and I'm going to take your neck and do it, sink the choke in. But I mean, is there not something for the 4-time Mexican wrestling champ to, that he was able to survive through almost the entire fight?
I will give you that he was doing a decent job of surviving the submission threat, if there was one from Bryce, or at least in the moment he felt there was one. But it is 100% Bryce Mitchell's fault that he did not land any strikes from full mount, side control, full guard, half guard, north south. I've literally seen he pulled off every fucking position in the book in this fucking fight, and literally did not do a goddamn thing of damage. And that's what's unfortunate. It's like, and this is like the Jordan Leavitt performance. It's like, I can beat you and I don't have to really, I can fucking spank you. Like, this is Bryce Mitchell proving like, I don't have to do it in a way that you would think like I'll just wait for it. I'll wait for the moment. And if, and what if it didn't come? Then we would have been talking about some fucking snoozer, of course. But either way, shout out Bryce. I think this is just unfortunately where he is in the game. Like, we have people that are prize fighters, and Bryce is definitely one of those dudes he's here to make money and he's here to fight, but he ain't putting on the same type of prize fights that we see some other fucking dudes. He's not Tommy Gunn, and he's not fucking the next guy kind of deal.
True. And, for as much as I am not a supporter of a lot of his stances outside of the octagon, you got to give him a little bit of credit for having the wherewithal to parlay, whatever it is that he does on his podcast and his speaking, engagements on Fox News, whatever, anytime that he is outside of competition. If you're going to fight like this, at least he's making a name for himself elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like, he's actually like using the UFC in the way that Dana White says to use the UFC as an opportunity. He's platforming himself elsewhere so that his fights are not the primary focus, which when you're going to fight like this, then maybe it is not a bad thing that you have a little bit of something else going on for yourself,
Yeah, the people that are big fans of Bryce Mitchell, of what he represents, I don't know if they've ever seen him fight, because it's like the most contrasting thing ever. Sean Strickland, the way that he talks, it's like, he's the man up kind of deal. He stands and fights. Bryce Mitchell talks as if he is like a killer, and then he shoots for fucking takedowns and grapples and 15 minutes of this kind of deal.
Well, the difference though is that he's not a killer; he's a warrior, but a warrior for the lore.
God damn right.
So, and that certainly showed when he got the entire Bible verse in there in his post fight, word for word. So I said, at least his brain still works well enough to accomplish that.
Yeah, shout out Bryce. I mean, him loved the Bible. I'll tell you that.
Very true. I wonder if he has a tribal.
He definitely has a tribal on his nightstand.
I don't know. I don't think he's much of a supporter based on certain things, but yeah, it could be. Maybe he has an old one from back when.
Gotcha. It's the first edition of the tribal. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, either way, Bryce gets the sub. This fight can go down in the record books. Moving on to the next one. This was one that hurt my heart. This was Farés Zaim versus Tom Nolan. So look, man, obviously this did not go Farés Zaim's way. I think that there were certainly some holes that were shown in the game, but I really got to put the spotlight on Tom Nolan in this fight. He looked really great from the start of this thing all the way through. Powerful on the feet, powerful on the ground, solid striking from Tom, paired with some really proficient wrestling and control. I mean, there were a couple of instances where I think Farés made it a little bit easier for him than it needed to be. But it all started with Tom having a really solid game plan and some some really good fundamentals early in the fight to last through to the point where he was able to take over a little bit easier than early on. So this was good for Tom Nolan. I thought he looked really good in this
I
fight.
really like this fight. What I said it in your chat, I'm pretty sure. I think the matchmakers did really good here because this is a fight that I don't think a lot of people expected to one be close or as close as it was. But then I don't think a lot of people expected the person to run away with the victory to be Tom Nolan. I think this was an opportunity for Tom Nolan to prove himself to a lot of people, and I think he took advantage of the opportunity. He came in here, and Tom Nolan is a dude. He's got the ninjutsu style is what I'm pretty sure yeah, exactly. He's a ninja. And so his striking, we've always known that he's comparable on the feet. When it comes to these Aussie guys, they take fights and they are tough. They will put their chin on the line for it. I give them that. You know, but I think what was so impressive here was the wrestling. I mean, when Tom Nolan got him up against the cage, I love this because Tom Nolan, I felt like I was doing the real steel shit right here, bro. I was like, Tom Nolan, waist lock, let's just lift him up. You're like 2 inches taller than him. If you just fucking pick him. And it's exactly what he did. He picked him up like a child, walked him over for a second, and then fucking dumped him. And I'm like, dude, this is when you pair it with decent striking that you could keep people unnoticed with. It's not the best, but it's technical enough that if you're on your shit, you're good. When you pair it with a guy who's been working on his grappling and he actually has some subs to his name, and then you add the extra layer of, oh, now he can just pick you up and do now he can just toss you around like whatever you want. He can take you to the positions where he wants to be. If he wants to be on the feet, that's cool. But then when you get up against the cage, he's going to make sure he finds the way to get you into the position where he's going to win. For Eziem, I think this was not his day. This was not the performance that I think is what I've seen from him. He's a very skilled Muay Thai, kickboxing kind of guy. Did not see that as much as I figured I've seen in the past. I don't know if there was a confidence thing. I don't know if Tom Nolan was able to just eat the space up in front of him that Ziem was not able to. But the grappling is where it just seems so weird. Is I don't know if he didn't expect Tom Nolan to seem so imposing. Like as soon as Tom Nolan got that first dump, I mean, he got, Ziem works back to his feet, whatever. We get back to the cage. Tom Nolan waist locks him again, picks him up, dumps him again. I'm like, that's textbook when you really think about, like, Tom Nolan put a clinic on for a dude who's a striker that wants to be a grappler, and now he showcased his wrestling. I always talk about there's an evolution that we have to see for you. You have to show me that you have these skills. You have to check the boxes off. Now, Tom Nolan, all you need to do is you got to get you got to get a scrap. You got to have somebody give you an ass whooping, and you got to fight back and win. That's about all that I need to see here. Show me, again, Aussies, put the chin on the line. These guys are really tough. I know he's got it, but I need my eyes to be, I need to have the evidence, of course. So it's a great
Sure.
performance from Tom Nolan.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Hydra makes a great point though, is that the tall man defense and takedown get exposed hard when you fight another tall guy, and I think that really showed in this fight when it comes to Farés. I don't want to, because I agree with you, Chase. I think that this definitely looked like an off night for him. I think that there were possibly a number of factors. I don't know exactly what they were, but like this does not seem like the same guy. But like either way, it certainly was very apparent that when you have comparable sized guys, Farés just a portion of his effectiveness does get neutralized. I think, like there were times where, like you were saying, when he's moving them all around, obviously a smaller guy is not going to be able to do that in the same effectiveness, to the same extent, and not as frequently either. I mean, like there's just a lot of things like that get taken out of the equation when the size is as comparable as it was, because both these guys are very tall. You pair that with like the consistency of Tom doing it. That really was what stood out to me, is that, Farés had some early success reversing position on the ground, gained his own control, but Tom was just able to navigate all of that and then regain his own control. And that, like, anytime that you have that situation where it's like, okay, it's like you're advancing, you have a little bit of a setback. If you start letting it backslide you to the point where now it's evened up, that becomes its own problem. But if you are able to say, okay, I backslid a little bit, but now I'm going to overtake and then regain my footing, start going forward a little bit more. That's what Tom ended up doing. Anytime he would have to take one step back, he was taking two steps forward after that. And then, of course, Zayam, I do believe that he ended up gassing in this fight pretty early. I want to say, like, it might not have been optically like that, but like, especially on the rewatch, it became a lot more clear. Like, that second round he slipped and then he kind of just like stayed there. I mean, granted, Tom had some good awareness to take advantage of that, but like, if he had been more quick to the draw to get back to his feet, that could have been a whole different situation. And he might have even been able to swing that round, but that was not to be happening there. So it's like, I say small moments turn into big ones, and that was definitely one of those. And then I said the other thing too that really drove home the idea that this was an off night for Farés was, where was the variety in the striking when he did have those moments where he was able to do it? Because there were not a lot of striking exchanges. There were a couple of times where Farés would put out some striking, Tom would get under it and then start doing the wrestling. I said, at that point, dude, this is the same guy who took Matt Fravola's face off with a high knee. Like, where were any of those? I don't remember him really even throwing a major knee at any point in this fight. There might have been a couple in clinches, perhaps, but like no big moments in that regard. So there just was like kind of an off like utilization of the things that were effective for Farés. And I think a lot of that was the wrestling of Tom Nolan. I think it just caught him off guard. He started to get tired about halfway through this fight. And then it was just, you're so far behind, there's no coming back from it.
Yeah, this one was just unfortunate for ZM because, there was actually, you're talking about the small moments. There was a point in round 3 where he like made a major goof. I forget what it was, but he like shot a takedown that was really fucking stupid, or he fell or something, and I was like, oh no, like he just lost the fucking fight right there. Like that was it, that moment right there. I forget what exactly it was.
I think it was in 2. That was because I was screaming about it on the
If
watch
it was
along.
2, maybe then. But yeah, like looking how close the scoring ended up, like it really did come down to that big moment or whatever. Like I was sitting here thinking, like, oh, he fucking fluked himself for having a shit performance. You still even had the opportunity to win that fucking round. And just shout out to Tom Nolan. Again, I think this is just a performance that a lot of people did not think was possible. Even me, for somebody who picked Tom Nolan, I figured it was going to be a tough ask. But the matchmakers, who it was, it Sean or Mick Maynard who had Tom Nolan on their side of it, probably Sean. I think he's Aussie as well. Sean Shelby picks him out, and he said this guy can beat ZM as much as you don't want to believe it. As much as this matchup looks as a guy up here versus a middling guy on his way, this is a even matchup, and it truly ended up being that because Tom Nolan had the skills to compete, and he was able to have the effective game plan that worked. I loved it.
Yeah, Mick is the
Mm.
Australian, but
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
So
sorry.
I mean, I think that the big thing that was going against Tom Nolan though was applesauce. I don't know if you heard about that, but he had some applesauce, and apparently it made him nearly shit his
We
pants.
we did not talk about this as well. I know Tom Nolan, hey, just applesauce, brother, whatever. But the story was for Bryce Mitchell. I know we're past this one, but the
Yeah.
two biggest things in his life now is that he has a daughter on the way and that he drinks a gallon of raw milk a day.
True. Yes. Yeah. That is we skipped over that with Bryce, but that is a wild thing to. I mean, the amount of lactose in your system, like generally people vomit off of much less than
So
that.
imagine Tom
But I don't know
Nolan.
if it's the raw aspect.
Imagine Tom
Yeah.
Nolan
True.
if applesauce is doing it to him. Raw milk, brother, stay away. Tell you.
I well, I mean, also similar to Bryce, we have this impression of Bryce, rightly so, of course, that he is the warrior for Jesus. But Tom Nolan, legitimately after this fight, and this was something that I actually was like kind of taken aback by because I did not know this about Tom Nolan. I guess he was also a very religious man. He literally said, and I quote, "Jesus Christ promised me this win." I was like, wow, that's a very loaded thing to
So
say.
he's a time
I
traveler.
mean,
That's pretty good for Tom Nolan. I mean, out of all the careers you could have picked, once you've, went back, met Jesus, got the answers, you still developed an MMA career after that. I mean, nice.
Crazy to think that it was foretold in the scripture, but yeah, I mean, apparently so. And why does Jesus hate for as I am so much? Is my
Yeah, I
question.
mean, it's really weird that you have the Philippines, you have the John 3:16, and then you have the Tom Nolan 2026. I mean, it's really crazy that he was able to pull out a victory. Um, did a bush catch on fire outside or something too? Like what's the deal here? And ZM, why are you paying for the sins of everybody right now? What happened, brother?
Seriously. Well, either way, Jesus's favorite fighter won this fight apparently. And maybe him and Bryce have to fight it out now. I mean, I know that they're, vastly different weights, but I mean, there can be only one. It's like a Highlander
Did
situation.
Jesus have a scale? Mm.
It's a good question, right? Seriously. But yeah, no, either way, Tom Nolan gets the win here. Solid win, really solid win, honestly. I thought that this was a really, really good performance for him against a very tough opponent. Farés Zaim will be back. That's what I said on the watch along too. I was like, this is not the end of Farés Zaim, I would say. He certainly has more to get done in this sport, and I think he will come back better after a fight like this. I just hope whatever was off for him this evening gets sorted out and he does not come into his next fight looking like this. But this in the moment, Tom Nolan really did prove something in this fight, and he definitely deserves the ranking. So shout out to him for
Does
that.
this make you think that if there were no painting fumes in the locker room, do you think Mike Davis was going to get this done against CM?
I mean, the world will never know, but those paint fumes will always be in our memory.
Absolutely.
True. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. And before I do, of course, shout out to Tyler Betts, brother. I am so sorry about your parlays, but you are still the man.
100%. Hydra, thank you for hanging out with us too, brother. You're the man.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Salute to the homie. All right. The co-main event of this evening was Brendan Allen versus Edmund Shabazian. Of course, Chase, last week I told you I was going to be very upset if Edmund Shabazian did not win this fight based on the conversation that we had. Edmund Shabazian did not win this fight. So I was a little bit cross with you on the watch along, sir.
Yeah, but you got to think that I had been doing really good up until this point. So like,
that is true.
The signs were there that this was a good one. But the funny thing is like, yes, it did not come to fruition that Edmund did not walk in there and knock him out in the first round. It also did not come to fruition that Brendan Allen was going to make light work of the grappling and just submit him as easy as possible. So I think there was a happy medium where we met in the middle. Whether you want to cope and believe that Brendan Allen, he had the game plan to keep his management buddy kind of deal in the realm of looking like he can compete with the top guys by not finishing him. But you also have to take into consideration that Edmund looked a lot better on the feet than I feel like we were going to give him credit for. Because when go ahead.
I have to stop you right there on that one because when I had said earlier for the Marcus McGhee versus John Yannis fight, I had another fight that I had a similar note for. The note for Edmund Shabazian, at least early in this fight, was that his output was just so lacking. I mean, at least early. Now, granted, he did turn it up later on. That's why everybody was like, oh, this is fight of the night. Honestly, I think that maybe Yannis and McGhee might have been a little bit more of a had the spark of a fight of the. I don't think that there was a fight of the night on this card, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, if you had to pick, I guess this one could take it off of what eventually this fight became. But that was the big glaring note for a lot of this was that Edmund was just the pace from Allen was not crazy high, but like he was allowed to dictate the entirety of it. Shabazian was just inactive in round one, sold the round, letting Allen just dictate the pace, throwing and landing at will. If you remember, Allen was like kind of just throwing out different shots and just seeing what stuck. It wasn't like he had like a definitive, like, oh, I'm going to walk forward and just, throw like a combination or whatever. He kind of was like, I'll throw this and then I'll throw a low kick and then I'll throw, you know what I mean? He just sort of like had like a variety because he's like waiting for something to come back. That is not the kind of pace that you can have against a top 5 guy, dude. Like, I don't know what version of Edmund was showing up to this. He was waiting too much for the counter opportunities, I guess. He finally did end up turning up a little bit later, but you can't wait around like that against a guy like Brendan Allen. I mean, who we know again, Brendan Allen has this the perception that he is just a grappling guy. We know that Brendan Allen throws hands. That I think is just kind of goes under the radar in his conversation. He has good striking, like, or at least powerful enough striking to hold his own within the top, 7 to 4.
No, this one. Listen, Edmund, I agree with you. The first round, he looked as stiff as a GI Joe figure. I mean, that dude, he had no lumbar. I don't know what was going on there, but Brendan Allen shot some of the, and this is where I started to believe. Again, Cope.
Oh,
what? Go ahead.
Oh, no. I just lost you for a second.
Okay.
Sorry. No.
Yes. So, and this is more Cope, of course. Brendan Allen shot some half-ass takedowns, and they weren't even takedowns. They were just like, I'm going to shove you up against the fence, and then I'm just not going to do it anymore, And then he decided to strike, which again, Brendan Allen, he has good striking when he's confident. I think this was a very good example of him being confident. And I even said, last week that could be to his detriment. He could go in there and be really cocky, and not cocky, but be giddy that he's taking the shots now. But like you said, Edmund Shabazian didn't do much that first round. As a guy who's a first round finisher, for the game plan to be take it a little slow first round, second round, now we take his head off kind of deal. Like I don't hate what was going on here. I think for a guy that Edmund, he's looked at as just the first round, one and done kind of guy, I think he proved to me that, like, okay, he has a game plan. He can strike for 3 rounds. He did it. And while the fight was going on, Brendan Allen, again, was happily taking a lot of the shots. And that's why I think at the end of the day, it wasn't the worst pick for Edmund, because Brendan was getting punched. I mean, and Edmund is a dude who is a powerful guy. Everybody else he's touching is falling to the shots. Brendan Allen, when he's confident, when he's on, he's looking good. I think just the years of him in this sport have just really developed his body a lot. Well, when he was getting knocked out earlier on in his career is because he was kind of slender. He's a little smaller. For now, he's like bulked up. Now he probably cuts a little more weight to be here, so he can take these bigger shots from a guy like Edmund. But the fact is, I picked Edmund. He had knocked people out before. People have folded to his punches. Brendan Allen got punched. He didn't fold. What can you say? That's just really how it goes. And he didn't dominate Edmund. So I think there is some validity that Brendan Allen didn't want to make it as easy as he probably could have been. I mean, dude, there was a takedown that he shot in the first. Like, I'm telling you, he went for the legs. He went up top, shoved him against the cage, and he was just like, you know what? I don't even need to do that. And it's like, you know what? Fair play to you. You won. You did the thing. I really appreciate the 30-27 win. But you're gonna tell me Gerald Mearshart can take this dude down, but you first round Brendan Allen couldn't have fucking got one leg? Like, oh, I don't know, brother.
Conspiracy theories abound, I suppose. But yeah, no, I mean, to Edmund's credit in this fight, and what we have seen out of him before, I was glad that he showed at least this element, is that he is certainly a dude who will hold his ground. Like, he very rarely retreated at all in this fight. Like, he was taking some decent shots, and he was not backing up to any of them. So I mean, like, you got to give him the credit to be like, okay, at least you if you're worried about the takedown, then you're not showing it by the positioning. At least you're not trying to be on the outside throwing kicks. You're up in his face. If it goes to a level change, even if it is a little bit of a lazy one, you at least are going to stand and navigate that however you have to. So I got to give him that credit, but you got to pair it with damaging offense to make it effective, because in this fight, maybe Brendan Allen of the past might not have had the greatest chin at times, but like in this fight, he certainly looked pretty good with his ability to take the shots. So commentary had made the note, and I thought it was a good one. You got two guys with decent chins. You got to be first and last with the striking. If not, you end up cut and down 2 rounds going into the third. And that's exactly where Edmund Shabazian found himself. I thought that Eric Nixick, who I've always said is one of my favorite coaches, I think that he really does have a way of giving fighters exactly what they need. And we will certainly be talking about that in the upcoming fight. But Eric Nixick said, Edmund Shabazian in that third round, going into the third round, gas pedal, brother. Like, give me every single thing that you have left, because obviously there was something held back in those first 2 rounds. Even if it started to come out a little bit more in the second, now is the time to go. To his credit, he did take that advice, but it just was not going to be enough. So Allen was undeterred. He's a tough guy. Like I said, I think his striking is somewhat underrated. Bloodies Edmund up, and took this fight fair and square. So I thought this was a nice victory, as it should have been from a guy who is fourth ranked against an unranked fighter.
Yeah, I think that's just the unfortunate story, is that Brendan Allen is he's a young guy, so he's got time, but he needs to be competing against the best in the world. Edmund Shabazian, one of the best fighters in the world per se, when you talk about the top 90% of the population, I guess 94%, whatever you want to say. But Brendan Allen needs to be fighting guys like Imavov, DDP, Usman, the guys that are actually in line for the belt. They're going to have to see Brendan Allen one way or another. They all have this sliding like mentality, like Brendan Allen. Like, you're serious? I'm not fighting Brendan Allen. I'm way above Brendan Allen. But as he will continue to keep winning, you will one day have to see him. And people like DDP, I'm a big fan of DDP. I think he's going to get his belt back. But I think there is, for good reason, him not fighting Brendan Allen. So that's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, and it really kind of is a funny little dynamic there, isn't it? Brendan Allen claims, at least, and I got to believe him based on the broadcast saying it as well. So, whether this is true or not, take it with a grain of salt. But let's say it is true. Brendan Allen took this fight because he wanted to stay active. DDP, you just talked about him, hasn't fought since the Hamzat fight. Hamzat just fought again. Hamzat, one of the most inactive fighters of all time. He somehow took a fight. Kamaru Usman, former champion, of course, maybe a little bit later on, but still claiming that he wants to be in the equation. I mean, fought what, Buckley? I mean, like, this is, you've got this weird dynamic where it's like this guy is out here trying to get fights, so he ends up with an unranked guy. Be like Brendan Allen. I mean, like, this dude's out here taking fights that he doesn't even need to take just because he wants to, based on that perception. I don't know.
Damn, you said be like Brendan Allen, and that can only mean that I thought about the next matchup for him, and that is to be like Joe Pyfer. God damn it.
I am okay with it. I mean, based on what we have seen here, I mean, I think Joe Pyfer is booked now, right? I mean, doesn't he have did they make
I
that fight?
think
I
it is
thought they rumored.
rumored, but it's not said, I don't think.
Either way, let it be. Because I mean, if Brendan Allen is out, and I see the only thing that holds Brendan Allen back is the fact that you say he needs to fight that level of fighter, like an Imavov, and or Dricus, whatever. He did fight Imavov, and he looked terrible against Imavov, if you recall. So it's like you can't. You can't pick and choose. Like, you actually have to go out and win some of those fights at that level to still be taking those regularly. But if the whole rest of the division is saying no, you got gridlock at the top, this is the kind of fight that he takes and wins, then yeah, you do keep yourself in that conversation. But now you got to prove it against those other guys when the chance comes.
100%. But shout out Brendan Allen, one of my favorites. Truly, as somebody who jumped into the sport and didn't know what they were talking about, I didn't know Brendan Allen was that guy.
Yeah, he's made a much bigger fan out of me over the years, I would say. I also was kind of a person that sort of thought of him just sort of as a placeholder in the division, kind of just, a filler of a slot. But based on the, the striking that we saw, what was that against Marvin, I think, right? Where was it? So, against Marvin Vettori, he has some good striking there. He's obviously very proficient in his grappling. I think he's a pretty well-rounded fighter. And the fact that he's out here being active, you got to commend him. I like him too.
Absolutely. Truly game.
Good deal. Yeah, truly all in, they
Yeah.
would say. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the main event here, Chase. This, so we had talked about this card pretty good overall, I would say, right? I was having a good time with this one. Everything's going okay. We talked about this fight coming into it. I had asked that very specific question, what's going to happen if Canelo Hands comes back? I want to read a tweet that I had seen. I'm going to read this out to you. This is from Jed K. Mishu. This is a quote. Not sure I've ever seen a fighter like Bilal Muhammad. Scratched and clawed his way to win a world title, then almost immediately decided that the style that got him there could fuck off. He was going to be a bad boxer from now on.
I'm glad you brought up this tweet because that's exactly the one that I was really praying for that you brought up. That tweet encapsulates it all. I mean, welterweight is one of the more interesting situations where me personally, it seems to be that the guy who's getting the opportunity to fight for the belt is not the best guy in the division because he immediately loses to the next guy who gets that belt opportunity, who then loses to a guy who didn't even deserve that opportunity for the belt. Leon loses to Bilal. Okay, that's fine. That's sure. Bilal loses to JDM.
Well, and also, yeah, say that fight right there was right at the transition from like that era into now too. So you can at least give a little bit of a leeway for that portion of the timeline. You know what I mean? But then
and then loses the belt to JDM. JDM loses the belt to Islam. Islam is probably the only safe bet in this equation here, but all of the other guys, they're getting opportunities where people didn't even think that they were applicable for the opportunity, and then they magically win the belt, but then they lose to the guy who, again, not even rightfully the next guy in line. Like, I don't get how maybe the welterweight is just that good that there's just too many guys and too many different talents that any given day somebody can be the champ. But there's just something to be said that the champ gets the belt, loses to the guy who didn't even deserve the shot. That guy loses to the next guy who didn't even deserve the shot. Who is the best guy in the division is what I'm asking, because Bilal Muhammad had a style that was dominant. I mean, this dude went on a fucking win streak in the UFC, everybody, and then went on to win the belt. Gabriel Bonfim has been finished in the UFC by Nicholas Dalby. who has probably 2 TKOs on his record of all time, probably. And it's just crazy how MMA works because Bilal Muhammad just decided not to be good today. I don't know what it was. He decided not to walk forward. He did not have the bully mentality. He did not shoot takedowns up until the third round after his leg was really fucking hurt. And that's just on top of him playing the Splish Splash song. But we can continue with that here in a minute. Jesus, go on, Thinker.
The splish splash was certainly a highlight coming into this
Well, it
fight.
certainly meant that he was washed, right?
Really a little foreshadowing, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, all of the preamble though, when it comes to like who the best is, goes out the window based on the fact that Bilal is choosing this. That to me
Mm.
is what really sticks out because, like you said, he had a style that brought him to the top. That's why I read the tweet. Of course, he had a style that was working gangbusters for him, and probably still could be working gangbusters for him. For whatever reason, he is committed to the bit to his detriment, and I have to even before I got a ton of notes about this, of course, but before anything else, I have to give the full on excoriation of Bilal Muhammad's coach. I should have looked up who's what team he's with or whatever,
Chicago.
but his coach,
Juliana
I
Pena's
know it's
team.
out of Chicago. Yeah. That coach that was in his corner. I said I have heard and seen many questionable things in corners in my time watching this sport, but Bilal's coach should be fucking ashamed of himself. Either he was oblivious to what he was seeing in this fight, or he was delusional to it, two different things there, oblivious or delusional, or he was intentionally sabotaging. Could be a combination of all three, but to continue to encourage the striking from Bilal after seeing what he was seeing in this fight, and we're talking into rounds 4 and 5 at that point. I mean, he was still, you got to be doing this with your hands. You got to, I want to see 2 jabs and then I want to see a back of the fucking striking down, throw it out the fucking window. What are you talking about striking at that point? I cannot believe that a coach would be telling his fighter to be continuing down this clearly wrong path. I mean, there were no two ways about it. The other big note that pairs with this is I have never seen a person sail so many shots into the stratosphere like Bilal Muhammad. This dude, I was saying, he looked like Superman taking off when he would fly, where it's just one of those, straight up into the sky. Bro was winging shots over Bonfim's head consistently, and Bonfim was the taller fighter. Where were these shots supposed to land?
I'm really hoping that in your notes you have a talking point about Bilal Muhammad trying to throw the same side head kick. Did you
Oh,
did
well, that was the only thing that I said actually was having any success were the kicks, but it
no.
wasn't enough.
No, not just the kick itself, but did you see where he would try to throw the flurry of combinations and end it with the head kick? And he looked like he has never fucking done that in his life, bro.
Well, that's the problem is that that combination was probably one that he thought was like his bread and butter in this new style. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm gonna work on this one combination. It does not. It falls apart, and then so you have slop, and then follow up with something that could possibly work on its own, but not in sequence.
What I will say about this as well, and this is the unfortunate part for people who are Gabriel Bonfim fans, if you think I'm a hater out there, you are correct. I'm about to break some news to you guys. This guy, and I didn't think about it until somebody tweeted about it later, and I thought like, yeah, that is kind of fucked up. Gabriel Bonfim in this matchup with Bilal Muhammad, a former champ, he's laughing at him. Like he's just having like it's not like I'm having a good time, whatever. It's like you see this guy. Like, come on, I'm doing the champ so dirty right now. Look at him. I just punched his mouthpiece out. Fucking like come on, fuck him. And this just adds to it because again, I'll break it down for you. And then to go on your post fight speech, as somebody who is a very heavy leg kicker, who is maybe the only good attribute that he has, is his leg kicks. I would say he's not the best striker in my opinion. I'm not necessarily seeing it, but the leg kicks, okay, he landed 34 of them. To then, have a good time, fuck this god below, come on, what? And then you call out the guy who just got leg kicked TKO'd.
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I get it's a former champ, but he just got finished by leg kicks, and you just threw 34 of them in this fight. Yeah, that's a really good call out for you, Gabriel Bonfim. But the point that I'm making with that one is he thinks the shit is too easy. He thinks he's having a grandiose time. He thinks 20-1. He's that guy. I'm happy
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah,
I'm
we
happy.
go and see. Exactly. No, I did. I definitely had that in the notes. I mean, like Bonfim smiling through this whole affair, just laughing at everyone's parlays, dying on the vine. His own corner had to tell him to stop. I don't know if you caught that. It was like during the cornering at one point, his corner was like, "I don't stop smiling so much, dude. You got to take every round seriously." And he was like, "I mean, does he? I don't know." Because I
Yeah.
mean, Bilal was. That's the thing. When Bilal makes it that way, does he actually have to take it that seriously? And that's the problem. It's like, because I said this was not some masterclass performance from Bonfim. He really just held his ground, picked shots when he could. Bilal made it so that he could get those shots in there. So, Bilal continuing to try to come in with his own terrible striking. Okay, well, I'm just going to get around that, land my own shots, and wait for you to do it again. If you're not going to give me any kind of threat, what reason do I not have to smile my way through this? So like I actually gave a lot of credit to his corner for trying to smack some sense into him, but that's also on Bilal and by extension Bilal's team.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I have with Bonfim, and because Hydra said, Hydra said it, I'm still so unimpressed by Bonfim.
Right.
I think he is in a position where a fraud check is coming, of course. I believe that truly, but it's going to be worse because he is coming from a team that is formed by him and his brothers, the Bonfim brothers gym. I mean, I'm glad that they told him to stop smiling. Um, it doesn't look like they've handcrafted themselves a fucking killer, in my opinion. So I don't know if they're just not seeing, if they have the wherewithal to stop smiling. Where's that in the gym where we need to fucking hammer in how to be a great fucking fighter? Bonfim is good at best. He got a win against Bilal. That's a former champion. He may even get the JDM fight, and he may even get a leg kick TKO against JDM. I don't put this past it, but that is still not going to make me believe that he is on the same level as some of the other people who have proven time and time again that they can finish the top level guys who have never been finished. I mean, Bilal never been finished, and he didn't finish him. JDM at the time, whatever we want to say, but Nicholas Dalby was able to figure this out. And he, to a lot of people, is an unknown hero, but to some people he's just the average journeyman, and that guy put him face down on the mat and finished him and that was only a handful of fights ago, guys. If we wanted to, and the biggest question I had for him on this one is how would the extra rounds even fare with him if he's getting fucking if 3 rounds with Wonder Boy is fucking hell to you, which we often are forgetting that Wonder Boy arguably beat him. They had to keep their guy in their books, 20-1. There's other people who are going to make this a really bad night for Bonfim. And I really hope that again, true hater in me, I hope he continues to get it easy because it's going to make it so much better when somebody really makes it look easy against him. And it's like, how did we not? The people who are going to be so shocked, like, oh my God, he got finished in the first round. Oh my God, he got knocked unconscious. It's like, you should have fucking understood that he wasn't that guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, this all circles back to Bilal being the problem in this fight. Bilal is making this guy look this way. I mean, or made
Yeah.
this guy look this way based on how he fought. So yeah, I mean, we say this. I remember like talking about like a guy like Rinya Nakamura who made his opponent look a lot better because he wasn't so proficient in one of the departments or whatever. Moon Gafrov, another person that comes to
Mhm.
mind in these kinds of conversations. Don't let it cloud your judgment of this fighter that like, oh, he's some kind of world ender because Bilal chose not to use the one skill that could have made this a competitive fight. But again, that's why all of the emphasis has to go on Bilal's side, especially as a former champion, especially as a person who has 24 victories under his belt based on a style that he is now choosing actively to not use anymore. And Bilal had the nerve. I mean, like, dude, I don't know if I wanted to feel bad for him or feel angry at him, but he had the nerve to be standing there, almost with that dumbstruck look on his face as he's getting the announcement read, getting 50-45, standing there like, man, that really happened. Yeah, Bilal, it did really happen. Why did it happen? I wonder why it happened. Was it because you chose not to wrestle at all? Yes, that is exactly why it happened. This is not fucking rocket science.
This guy went on a win streak, from 2019 up until 2024, where he won the belt. And here he is, 3 fights later, still thinking that he is a striker. I, it's just an unfortunate story, and it's unfortunate for us fans as of right now because we see a guy like Bonfim, who's, in my opinion, he's getting off real easy. He's lucky to have an opponent like Bilal who's mentally unstable or something. I don't know what the fuck is his problem, but it will not last for long. So I'm very hopeful for the end of Gabriel Bonfim, because I listen, we saw what his brother ended up being, and I don't think that this guy is that far off. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
put him up against Michael Morales. He'll be out
Eh,
of there easy.
That's what I said too, honestly, is people there's two guys at the division. Like, you're gonna have to see one of them before you get anything that you want, and
Right.
that's Michael Morales, that's Carlos Prates. And if you don't see either of them, you're not getting the belt, in my opinion, brother. I mean, fuck Islam? No, not even fucking close, brother. No.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And as far as Bilal goes, I mean, I would say change camps immediately, based on what I was hearing out of his corner. That
Go
there's
back to
no
Dagestan.
2-3 years in Dagestan and forget. Maybe make it 3-4 years. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you need to go back to your roots in a real way here. This whole fucking fantasy that you've concocted for yourself, this Canelo hands bullshit. I mean, it's cute when it's something that you're saying in interviews. When it's now seriously affecting your career, it's time for you to cut the horse shit. I mean, really, this is one of those like almost intervention worthy moments for him where it's like somebody needs to sit him down and say, dude, stop it with this fucking masquerading that you're trying to do as a striker. You are not that. Either you go back to what you're good at and maybe you get the victory. And also the other thing too that I have to caveat all this with is to say you can still strike while doing that. That's the craziest part about this. It's not one or the other. This is mixed martial arts, brother. Get the takedown and then strike on the ground, or do a little bit of striking and then go into the level change. There's a million ways to make this happen that are not this. You cannot do this anymore. And especially after being on the other side, you've already completed the hero's arc. You were the champ. You're not the champ anymore. You want to still be relevant in the conversation. If you are going to continue down this path, it's only going to get worse for you.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Well, that's enough yelling at Bilal, I suppose. But really, again, I have to emphasize how absolutely atrocious the cornering was. So, that coach really should feel bad about this fight. Like, I think there's a lot of blame that goes on that coach for encouraging what he was seeing.
That's unfortunate. But if we are definitely at the end and we rounded out this card, would you like to break down the numbers?
Thank you, Chase. Yes, I certainly would like to break down the numbers. UFC Fight Night, Muhammad versus Bonfim. How did we both do?
Okay, so out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fights,
Mm-hmm.
I had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 correct. And then you had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 correct.
Yeah, it's
So
not as bad as I thought it was going to be, honestly. It's not the worst.
we're making our way. We're making our way. So the totals, 145 for Chase to 124 for Thinker.
Oh my God.
God damn it,
It
man.
gets no better. And I would have, and it could have only been one behind if it had been for the Brendan Allen fight. God damn it.
That is true. Yeah, damn. That is unfortunate. But I talked you out of that one. So hopefully you learn your lesson for this next week and you don't listen to me too much. But
Well, I'm done with that.
introduce
Yes, no, that's out the window. But before we move on, Chase, again to wrap it all up, what did you, after talking it all through, what did you think of this card?
This was great, guys. A lot of finishes. We often talk about finishes not necessarily all being the same. Not just because somebody gets an early finish or somebody gets a finish doesn't mean the fight was great. Obviously, the Bryce Mitchell is an example of something like that. But a lot of great performances from people, not just great fights, but people who they needed a fight like this. Like, they needed that. They needed to earn the fans' trust back. And I think a lot of people did that. A lot of people lost the trust that they maybe had, but for some people, they did some really good stuff here. A lot of people, I would say, A plus. So
Yeah, exactly. Aside from the main event, which was really a very downer note to end this thing on, like, had it not been for this main event, this might have been one of the best cards of the year, as crazy as that
oof,
might sound. I know.
yeah.
Well, I mean, at least best consistent performances in one card. How about that? I think
Mm.
that's a better way to put it. You know what I mean? Best consistency of quality individual performances, I would say. I think that
My,
tracks.
my thing about it is I don't care about, not the bets, not if anything went right per se, but when I saw this card months ago, I said this is it. This is a good card. And the fact that it panned out to be one of the better ones seems like I know what I'm talking about, guys. Seems like I know what I'm talking about. So I'm just
Indeed.
down for it.
Yep, fair enough. And I enjoyed it as well, except for that main event. Yeah.
So I want you to go ahead and introduce the White House. I'm going to run to the restroom so I can definitely talk plentiful about our
All
next
right.
picks.
Well, you go for it then there, Chase. And everybody in the chat, you know the drill here. When was the last time your boy Thinker St. James ran to the bathroom on this show? If you watch my watch alongs, you know that I often go to the bathroom. Got to go to the bathroom right now. To be perfectly honest with you, I always hold it for the entirety of last week's fights. So when Chase comes back, I want to see L's in the chat. Give him as much hell as you can. But either way, that's between you and I. We'll let that slide, in the big picture here. But as we wait for Chase to come back, this, of course, is UFC Freedom 250, Topuria versus Gaethje. I didn't even know that they actually added the fighter names to this. I thought they were just going straight UFC Freedom 250 without putting the main event as part of the official title there. But UFC Freedom 250, Topuria versus Gaethje. Of course, this is the White House card, people. This is what we have been waiting for what, a year? I mean, so crazy to think about that aspect of things while we wait for Chase to come back, right? I mean, I remember when this was just a seed of a formulated thought, something that was swirling as an idea in the air, and now we're here. It's this coming week. I mean, like, or this coming weekend rather. This Sunday is finally going to be the big spectacle we've been waiting for. We talked about it earlier on this stream. What we can expect, hopefully, will be something interesting. But of course, these fights are really quality fights. I mean, it's what I had said, aside from what everybody hoped for this card to be, what it ended up being, maybe not exactly 1-to-1, but as far as the quality of the fights in and of themselves, what it could have been for like an international fight week. If we had had this on international fight week as just UFC 330 or whatever it would have been, we certainly would be like, damn, good card. So I am very much looking forward to these. And here comes Chase to talk it all
Oh,
through.
yes. Okay. So, our first fight, are we ready to break it down?
Just in time, brother. Ilia Topuria is taking on Justin Gaethje. Of course, this is for the lightweight championship of the world. What are we thinking here?
I think this is going to be an interesting one, of course, because a lot of people are counting out Justin Gaethje, and I don't think that that is rightful in any manner. Ilia Topuria is obviously somebody who I've grown to respect as what he is able to accomplish in the octagon and what he has accomplished. I wanted to find a way for me to believe. I was sitting in the car and I'm like, how could I make this interesting? How could I be the one to pick Justin? He's American. Is this moment as big for him to prove that he's so American that he will win in America? He'll be, but I think Ilya, I think this moment means more to him. I think truly like this means more to Ilya than it means to Justin. And whether it should or shouldn't, I mean, it does. Ilya is as locked in as they have ever been, I would say, to get this opportunity. But go ahead. You don't
Oh,
believe
yeah,
that?
well, that specific point, maybe I might take a little issue. I mean, Justin has been the most vocal about how serious he takes being at the White House, all of that element. Obviously, I mean, let's not go into the whole stuff with Sean Strickland and everything, but obviously they've been going
Hmm.
back and forth about, out Americaning each other. So I wouldn't say that, like this is more important to Ilya than Justin as far as like the gravity of the White House element of it, but like the fight itself and, being the champ. I mean, Ilya has what I've always said about Ilya is when it comes to like manifesting, the idea of manifestation, I don't think I've ever seen a human being do it like Ilya Taporia. He has charted his career in his own words and then delivered on every single thing he has said he was going to do every step of the way. So, I mean, to say that, this is just another of the steps in his journey, and for him to be able to accomplish that, I mean, we've seen nothing but that. So how do you rationalize that not being the thing that happens,
I don't think Ilya thinks the White House is. I don't think he's taking that aspect serious. I think Justin. I think this is the biggest thing for him. Of course, he's very vocal about it. But Ilya, every fight of his life, like you said, he's manifesting a lot here. He's tracking his course. He makes every fight the biggest fight of his life. And then I think he truly is. To defend his belt at this point. I think it just means meaning the world to somebody. I think Ilya really just takes this shit to the next level. Justin, as much as he wants to believe that this is the biggest moment for him, it may be, but I have seen Justin Gaethje. We talked about Matt Schnell and just the science behind him just being wobbled. Like Justin Gaethje goes noodle legged and he just flops around sometimes. What is there to say that Ilya can't land something that makes him do anything close to what all the other people? Charles Oliveira dropped this dude. Like it. And Ilya took that shot clean on the fucking chin. Like lot that goes into it. I would love to be able to say that I can pick Justin at the White House, the American spirit. He's bigger. He's the veteran. He's been around. He's faced it's just not possible though. Ilya's 29 years old. He is on a fucking tear, and goddamn, he's just in that fucking zone right now, man. I just can't make it happen. I'm sorry.
I mean, there's nothing you like. It would, if it was a spicier take, it'd be like something to apologize for. You know what I mean? Like, how do you deny Ilya Taporia? I mean, the degree of the resume, the way that he has made legends of this sport look in competition, the fluidity of his movement in his striking, the nature of the way he wins his fights, and the fact that we saw him have to wrestle a little bit, actually mix it up a little bit against Charles, and have no problem with that either. Like that was really the moment for me. Like if there was any doubt up until that, which there really wasn't for me, but if there ever was even that little, minor thought in the back of my mind, well, what would happen if someone tries to take him down? It's like, okay, well, now we've seen that that's not a problem either. There's nothing to stand on to have any kind of counterpoint to what Ilya brings to the table.
It's actually, when you think about it too, it's like, so what Justin is as a striker. Okay. Ilya Taporia knocked out Volkanovski, who is a counter striker. He's evasive. He's hard to hit, hard to knock out. I mean, up until that point, only one person had done it, and that was Islam the year before. Ilya knocked him out. The next fight, Max Holloway, a guy who's never been knocked out. He is always on his bike, very elusive, very hard to hit. He hits you and you don't hit him. He knocked him out. Now, Charles Oliveira, another dude who has never been colded like he had been after this dude. This dude had grappling. This dude had he had the confidence. He went in there ready to fucking kill Ilya, and Ilya murdered him. Justin Gaethje is not elusive. He's not evasive. He will take shots. He will put his hands up and try to block. But at the end of the day, I've seen Ilya's punch render people unconscious, bro. Like, not it, dude. The what he did to Charles is just insane, and I could totally see Justin. He's confident that he could take shots. He always is. You have to be for the style that he is, but God, you have to fight a clean 25 minute, well, 15, whatever we want to say. Up until a certain point, I would say the power is there. But for what we know, at least up until the halfway mark of round 2, danger is afloat for Justin. Ugh.
Yeah, and I mean he's been on, he's been on the teetering brink of retirement based on getting himself into this exact situation. Now he has navigated that very effectively, obviously. The Paddy Pimblett fight certainly solidified that he still deserves to be in this equation the way that he is. I'm glad that he didn't take a different route. I think it all ended up working out for him specifically very well, but it reminds me a lot of what we talk about when people come in on the Contender Series and they finally get that big win, and it's like, great, congratulations that all of those elements clicked for you. That's the starting point. Like, now, obviously this is not, exactly that, but my point is that, yeah, good job, dude. You did all of those things to get you right to here, but now you got to deal with what comes with where you have gotten yourself to.
Yeah, absolutely. It is unfortunate for Justin. I'd say that, brother. You got to go up against Thanos, man. I tell you, I mean, this dude's got the Infinity Stones. He's got 3 of them.
It's so true. He's filling out the gauntlet in real time, and again, just calling his shot. I've never seen anything quite like it, really, inside of combat sports or out. I mean, like, talk about saying what you're going to do. It's like Babe Ruth, pointing the bat out into right field and then just sailing the shot exactly where he pointed it. Like, you call the shot and you take the swing. And that is what Ilya does. And he is insanely effective at it, possibly the best to ever be effective at it.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, I guess then that pretty much says it all. I guess we are both pretty locked in on Ilya Taporia for this one.
Yes, we are, for sure.
And let me say this then before we move on. If Justin pulls off the upset, it possibly will be one of the great moments of MMA history to pull off the upset against an unbeatable foe on the lawn of the White House at this event for an American fighter. I don't think that this might be like a paradigm shifting if that happens. So I'm certainly here for it. Obviously, I like Justin well enough. I'm a fan. It would be insane if this happens, just to put that out there.
Well, when you put it into context of what he had did at the start of the year, arguably maybe had staff, maybe not training as hard as he could have been, out of shape, whatever you want to say, all these other factors could have been. If Justin wins this, he's fighter of the year and there's no contest about it. So
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is actually right at the halfway point of the year too. So like, there's not going to be something that will beat that. I would certainly agree with that.
Yep, the upset on Patty for 5 rounds, and then if to beat Ilya at the White House, man, that's just, you'll see it on your ticker across the screen while you watch the rest of the fights.
Make it happen. Make it happen for America, brother.
Yep.
All right. Well, we are locked in there. Shout out to the 10-7 MMA in the chat, by the way, brother. We see you, bro. Cracking me up over here. All right, moving on to the co-main event. Crazy that this is a co-main event, but Chase, did you hear that? Well, first of all, let me say this is Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane, obviously. Did you hear that Dana White said that if Alex Pereira becomes the 3-division champ, that he will have overtaken John Jones for the greatest of all time?
I think, yes, I did hear it, and I think it is valid because now Dana is showing how petty he's going to be, of course. Like now John Jones is gone for fucking 8 months. Yeah, no, fuck him. Now he's not even the GOAT anymore. Did you guys hear about that Ecuadorian kid? Like whatever you want to say. But so
John Alex Jones Pereira was never my friend.
Right, exactly. So what I think is interesting, when you look at this fight, think about how experienced these guys are. Think about the veteran status that they have accumulated, right? Alex Pereira has headlined 7 different events and then co-mained on 3 of them or whatever the fuck it is. These guys are 13-3 versus 13-2. This is the 4th or some shit opportunity for Ciryl Gane. This is Alex Pereira challenging for a 3rd belt with the record of 13-3. I mean, to argue that this is anything short of GOAT status is redundant. But for me personally, from what I've seen, same thing with Ilya, and I've seen Alex do it longer. Alex has proven to me that there is just nobody that has destiny on their side like him. Obviously, Josh Van is one of them. Destiny is on Alex Pereira's side. For me to believe that he's not going to go ahead and claim the 3rd belt, it's for me to believe that he ain't going to fucking show up. And he always shows up, except that one fight with Uncle Live. But the point is, Alex is a man that says what he's going to do, and he happens to just follow through with his word. There's a lot of people who say a lot of things in life. Alex Pereira is a man of very little words, but you know what his goals are. Like he makes his goals known, whether he says it very vocally, very often or not. You know that this dude wants greatness. He wants the legacy. Going up for the 3rd belt is something that has not only never been done, but winning it would, yes, make him probably the GOAT with a record of 14-3, accumulating 3 divisional belts. Yes, I think that's true.
I mean, I've said for a while, I go back into the Israel Adesanya fights with Alex, saying that Alex was working his way towards GOAT status even at that time. To see where he has come in this sport in the time he has been here and what he has been able to accomplish. I mean, anybody who has a differing opinion about, the level of greatness of this guy, I really question where you're finding that reasoning. I don't think that there's any like counter argument to your eyes tell you exactly what you need to know when you watch this guy fight. He makes people look small. And I'm not talking physical stature. I'm talking in just, person versus person kind of thing. Like he has a way of commanding presence in fights that is unlike anybody else, really. I mean, like in a broad sense, like he has a commanding presence that is backed up by the danger of his power. That's very unique to him. And the fact that Israel Adesanya was able to best him at any time is a credit to how great that man once was. But that's a long time ago now, and he has continued on, aside from the setback with Ankalaev, he's continued on to cement a legacy of absolute greatness, putting himself squarely in the GOAT conversation. Cyril Gane has been at heavyweight, and he has been a better person at heavyweight than a crop of heavyweights that have not been so great. I mean, that's really about as good as I can say about Cyril Gane. Is he talented? Of course he is. Absolutely he is. And I mean, being able to be as athletic as a big man as he is certainly has taken him a long way in a division that's lacking other people like him. But now you've got Alex Pereira in the mix. I think that he is one of those people that's going to slot into the weight class as perfectly as one can. If Cyril Gane had problems with John Jones, even though that fight was very quick, if there was any potential for what happened in that fight to happen to Cyril Gane, it already tells you what you need to know. This is not a person that can be handled by someone who might not be a natural heavyweight. All the information is already there for me as far as the differences between these two people. The fact that Cyril Gane is even in this fight is questionable based on the Volkov fight. I think that this is a pretty foregone conclusion as far as how I'm looking at it.
I agree. I think Alex, I've said this before. I said this after Yuri too. Alex Pereira has this ability that only I've seen with potentially Anderson Silva, where he makes world class athletes, one of the best mixed martial artists in the world. He will make them look as if they have never competed in their life. And that is the craziest part. Alex Pereira, what he did to Yuri Prohashka, I mean, he made him look like he's nothing to him. And if I'm correct, I would like to believe that, again, with destiny on his side, Alex Pereira is going to do something that not many people have done to Cyril Gane on the feet, and that is making it look easier than it should. So I'm going to go ahead and take my boy Alex, and I think he's going to find a way. I can't tell you that my heart's here with it. I can't go wrong. Let me just say it that way.
Yeah, and look, I see the other side of the coin when it comes to the size of Cyril Gane, the athleticism with the size that I think is his best asset. Of course, great mover. I mean, the range of motion paired with the striking and the fluidity, I think, is all there for him. Alex has been in fights where he had to be more athletic than others. I mean, there are a lot of times where he's able to just stand there and land shots easily. I always go back to the Cleo Roundtree fight. That was a much harder competition than I think anybody thought it was going to be, and more output than Alex is usually having to go through when it comes to his fights. But he was able to figure it out. So if Cyril Gane takes him into deep waters, so be it. 5-round fight. There'll be plenty of time for Alex to find the shot. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would say is that, and you tell me this, Chase. I mean, are you at all worried about the power of Cyril Gane as far as knockout ability and catching him with something that he hasn't experienced at light heavyweight?
Yes, I think it is something to be worried about. I mean, this is a dude who was busting up Tom Aspinall. I mean, he's clearly going to be able to land the shots. Alex Pereira is not the best defensive striker. His hands are out and he's ready to throw punches, but when it comes to defensive striking, I mean, he just kind of he just goes with it, kind of deal. So he will take a shot to give one. Cyril Gane is a crafty, strong, fast heavyweight. It is definitely possible that Alex can get caught and get checked early, and it just may not look like what I hope it is. But my heart is in on it. I cannot lose either way as long as I take the dude that I respect more, that I've seen do it more consistently. Cyril Gane, we've seen him just not pull through in fights that don't even, like, I mean, when you want to talk about the Volkov fight, it didn't matter in the sense that it wasn't for a belt, but it mattered in the sense that, yeah, it was to get him to the next belt. He lost with a broken foot from what everybody else saw. According to the judges, apparently he fucking won on a bum leg. I don't know what to tell you about that, but he shouldn't even be in this opportunity. He has squandered less opportunities than this This is the White House. This is the biggest moment in his life. He's probably going to fold. And mentally, he may look and he may feel like he's there, but what John Jones did to him, you can't erase the fact that you in front of your home country to win your belt, you got made look a fool by a dude who came out of retirement and to a new weight class. So Alex Pereira, I think the fate is on his side when it comes to the mental warfare here. Ciryl Gane, you may be able to say that, I'm locked in, I have nothing to lose. But mentally, that already once in your life, the biggest opportunity you had, you got finished in front of your family and friends. And I'm not saying it to be, hard, but like, this is the White House. You're going to be in America, enemy territory, whatever you want to say. If your friends and family weren't able to will you there, I mean, this is definitely not going to be the environment where you're going to get any sympathy from the crowd, I guess. But it is what it
Fair.
is.
Well, to that point, that actually does nicely segue into my last question. How do you think fouls are going to play into this? And I mean, look, we've talked a lot about the Aspinall fouls, but that's a fraction of what we know Ciryl Gane to do. Ciryl Gane is a smooth criminal because he doesn't generally get put into the category of being a dirty fighter, but we know better than that. He is a dude who is very content with being a little bit reckless when it comes to fouls. Do you think that we see some kind of foul situation that puts a marring on this fight at the White House?
I think it's possible, but I also think Alex Pereira is the type of dude who gets kicked in the dick, wipes it off, and then knocks the opponent out right after. So if Ciryl Gane wants to play that game, I don't know if it's going to be necessarily what he's expecting it to be, because we saw what Waldo was able to do to Ante Delia. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen that way or it's possible, but things have happened in this sport before. History can repeat itself. It doesn't always, but Alex Pereira is a special type of fighter. So just do not underestimate what this man can do. And if Ciryl Gane, he is that type of fighter that I've said exists. There is a type that bends and breaks the rules because if they don't get caught, there's no reason not to. He is that type of fighter. I definitely see that he will enact his skill set of the intangibles, but I don't know if we're gonna get any more or less kind of referee intervention than we normally do with Ciryl Gane. They normally don't give a fuck. They let this dude do whatever the fuck they want. Like,
Yeah, no shit. Well,
yeah.
either way, we'll see if it happens, I suppose. But I guess final verdict is pretty well in lockstep on this one too. Then we're both going Pereira.
We are 100% going Pereira.
All right, Pereira it is. Well, then that makes it two. Let's see if this third one changes that. Of course, Sean O'Malley is fighting Ayman Zahabi. A lot of people, feel some type of way about this fight. Like Ayman Zahabi has not earned his way into this, being a dogged fighter who, has proven himself time and time again. I said for the longest time, the only thing that was holding Ayman Zahabi back was his inactivity. He upped his activity level, and now he's on the White House card. So I think that he's perfectly well slotted in this position. What do you think about this fight?
I think this is an interesting one. One of the more ones that could have not been on the White House card. I mean, who really gives Sean O'Malley's not really what he once was. Ayman Zahabi. When I just looked and I realized, like, damn, he is 38 years old. He is an older guy. He's a lot older than his record and his activity would the way that he fights. Of course, I guess what I would say would elude you to believe. I want to, and I'm not just saying this because I dislike Sean O'Malley, but I'm gonna take a shot here. And then when I saw the age, I was like, this is more of a shot than I really assumed it to be. I've said this from the beginning. I think Ayman Zahabi has the opportunity to shock the world. And not necessarily because Sean O'Malley is like the craziest fighter of all time, like upsetting him is so crazy, but nobody believes that Ayman Zahabi. I mean, and it's Ayman Zahabi. Nobody really believes in him as it is. For me, he's earned the respect. What he did against Aldo, he took that fucking soccer kick. Yeah, I'll give it to him. That dude's a fucking chat. Canadians at the White House, I think there's going to be obviously some sort of stigma that people are not going to give him the respect that I think he deserves just based on a lot of different things. He's unassuming as well as another thing about him. But when I say that I think he can shock the world, I do think it's possible for him to win. And what I hope to happen, and what I'm going to put all my chips in right here, right now, is that Ayman Zahabi is not only going to beat Sean O'Malley, he is going to finish Sean O'Malley at the White House and shock the world. And I think it is going to be one of the bigger things on the White House card itself that the Canadian walked in and fucking dogged your fucking rainbow haired whore, whatever. So
Sure. I mean, I was thinking that we were going to be out of sync on this, but yeah, no, I also am going with Ayman Zahabi. I think that Ayman Zahabi, that's completely independent of anything that you said. I think that Ayman Zahabi, again, I've been following Ayman Zahabi for a long time. And I've always thought that he was a guy who had a lot more potential than he was showing earlier in his career. Again, it goes back to just thinking that he was an inactive fighter for whatever reason. I don't know why he was choosing not to fight consistently, but once he started fighting consistently, I think that he has shown that he really is a world class fighter. He's of a caliber that is definitely deserving to be in the upper echelons. Somebody who I think can give a lot of problems for a lot of different reasons to Sean O'Malley. I think the only thing that I would say is that Sean using his ranged attacks might be something that will be a little bit of a problem for Ayman, but Ayman is a tough guy as well. Again, you say he's an unassuming guy, but he can take a shot. So he'll go in there and get past the striking range, take one or two to get into the clinch. And then, it's going to be a big test of O'Malley's ground game if he ends up going to the ground with it, or it's going to be a dirty fight on the cage that is not going to be Sean getting his way. That was what I said in the Song Yadong fight with Sean O'Malley. Song Yadong giving Sean too much respect, allowing him to have a fight that was more what he wanted. It basically trended towards that to the point where Sean ended up overtaking and winning. It didn't have to be that fight for Song Yadong. Ayman Zahabi, I don't think comes in with the same type of mentality. I think that he goes in and gets the fight that he wants instead.
yeah, I think, and this is maybe just me. Again, I'm a hater. I think I'm more maybe preying on Sean to lose rather than wanting Iman to win. And if that is the case, that's fine. We all got to pick sides in life, and I'm okay not being on the Sean O'Malley train anymore. Like, I mean, at one time, I mean, man, a bantamweight who's got finishing power is crazy. And where's it at? All right, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, fuck him. I'm done. It's okay. It's Ayman Zahabi's a pretty cool dude. He's a cool dude to root for. So Sean O'Malley, I hope your 6ix9ine tattoos panned out for you.
Fair. Yeah, and it really that's not even a factor to me. I mean, Sean was a champion, and that is certainly a notch on his belt. But I mean, based on what we have seen in the bigger picture, is what I really am going off of. Granted, he was able to beat Aljo, which I think is a very big notch in the belt there. But if you recall the way that fight went down, he did evade a good amount of what Aljo was doing in order to find the shot. But it wasn't like Aljo was over committed to any. I mean, or like he wasn't making it as dirty as he could have been, I guess is what I would say in that fight. Like there were a couple of takedown attempts that Sean was able to get out of. He was able to pick the leg up over when he would go for the shot. Impressive in that regard. I think Ayman Zahabi just brings in a different type of fight than Sean has seen before. I mean, with the style of fighters that he is currently fought. So I don't know. I think that this is the one that there is a likely upset potential. And as I said, I've always thought that there was better for Ayman Zahabi than he was giving himself the ability to get. Now he has it. This is his time.
Yeah, hell yeah. Ayman Zahabi, let's go.
All right. Well, again, lockstep on this one as well. Unexpected, I suppose. Maybe this will be the different one. Probably not. This is Josh Hokett versus Derek Lewis, the late addition to this card. Josh Hokett has a crazy fight with Curtis Blades that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. The president is at that fight, whispers into Dana's ear, let's get this guy on here. Why is Derek Lewis not on the card? And all of a sudden, this fight falls out of the sky. So did what you saw in the Curtis Blades fight give you the impression that that was going to happen again with Derek Lewis?
The fight with yes, so yeah, the fight with Curtis Blades, it actually, I think it showed a lot about Josh Hokett. I mean, it showed that he is really about, whether it's uh because metaphorically he's about what he says, because obviously legitimately what he says is nothing about the actual fights. It has nothing to do with any relevant things. It's just literally waffle. But the fight itself, very skilled, very confident striker. I mean, this is a step down in competition, really, from what we saw him do with Curtis Blades. I mean, it's not possible for him to have a fight that good with Derek Lewis. It's just not going to happen because after the first 2 minutes, Derek Lewis is completely rendered useless, other than one big bomb, and that's just how it is. And we may even get an opportunity to see Derek Lewis pull off his patented "I fall over and don't fight back anymore," and that's the problem here. Is Hokit went from a fighter who gave him a fight, and he brought the fight to them, and it was one of the greatest performances that we've got to see inside the cage. Now we have a fighter who's going to bring the fight to somebody who's less likely to bring the fight back to him. Okay, he's going to throw one big shot. I'm not going to say at a time that works against people like Nascimento, the flying knee or whatever against Rodrigo de Lima or whatever, Talis and Teixeira. But Josh Hokit, from what I've seen, this is a guy, when you look at the stats, 6'1", and you look at how small the reach is, the numbers don't tell you the entire story, but this is a dude. Sometimes really good fighters have really unorthodox builds for the division. They don't get to be seen that often by those type of competitors. So I think it's perfectly valid for somebody like Josh Hokit to come in here. Derek Lewis has been around the block. Of course, he's knocked out anybody and everybody. But he has also fallen over and given out to people who are just just not even whooping his ass that bad. He just falls over. So Hokit, step down in competition, should be able to go ahead and get this one done as long as there's no antics involved. Because if there is, he's probably going to fuck around and he's going to flip him off 6 times and get fucking punched in the face and fall over and die. I don't know. It's just I would say Hokit has an easier time than his last performance.
Yeah, I mean, it would be absolutely wild if he does that at the White House. But really, I think another thing that really bolsters this point, we haven't really mentioned this up until this point, but this fight specifically, I think it plays a big part. All of that stuff that you mentioned about Derek Lewis and how he has the potential to crumble, that's all been indoors. This is an outdoor fight. I think that this dude is going to be having very, very hard time. Like if this goes over half a round, I mean, like I think the elements are going to get to him. I just think there's too many factors going against Derek Lewis in a better controlled environment. Being in an uncontrolled environment, humidity, potential for other climate conditions.
Yeah. I think you make a great point here as well, because Hokit comes from playing football.
That was literally the other part I was going to say. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got one guy who is well acclimatized to the outdoors, was, running, being very athletic outdoors.
Full fucking suits of armor, too.
Exactly.
So he's probably going to feel pretty fucking good out here. I'm not going to lie. But
yeah, this is going to be a walk in the park. I mean, I don't know if you saw that clip of him doing football drills. I think that actually was somewhat recently, too, if I'm not mistaken, or unless that was just an old clip that resurfaced. But, he's doing the tire run where you do the feet work through the tire or whatever. Like, I mean, this guy he moves just like a professional football athlete. I mean, he's got no problem in that kind of environment. This will be old hat to him. Derek Lewis coming in, at an advanced age as well. I mean, he's a 41-year-old man. Really sad to say the president has set him up for this loss in a tremendous way. I have to, I mean, like, I feel bad that that's the case. And I'm sure that the president did not mean for that to be the case, but knowing the factors that go into this, the age, the elements, all of what we know about Derek Lewis, this is, I think, going to be a fairly easy fight for Josh Hokit, sadly.
Yeah, they say walk in the park, but whatever the park is that's going to be across the street with the fan fest, I mean, Derek Lewis, you're getting walked through that park. Yes, I'll tell you that.
True. Yep. By the Vato Loco.
Yeah, the down Vato, please, Jesus.
Pardon me. Yes. All right. So we both locked in on Joshua.
Josh Hokit, yes. Yeah. Joshua, like you're Ariel Hawani. That's pretty funny.
Well, I do run. We have not seen. I guess that they were going to leave them off of the press conference, and now they put them back onto it or whatever. We have not seen what we, may expect out of Hokit, but, it is going to be kind of interesting if he does try to pull all of his normal shtick at the biggest stage possible. I mean, you're really playing with fire, putting this guy in front of a microphone ever, but now at this level, it's going to be kind of fascinating, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, down the line, Mauricio Hufi is fighting Michael Chandler, Mr. Dana White privilege himself. I mean, Hoofy is a guy who, I mean, he's been checked. He's not necessarily bulletproof. I had said early on in his career, very early on in his career, I said, that there is potential for the flashiness that he has to bite him in the ass eventually. I think we saw that to a minor extent. He turned it around in the fight after. Chandler gets checked all over the place. I don't know. What do you think?
I think this one's a little more interesting than people are leading to believe because as I think about it right now, for the longest time, it's like, okay, Hoofy chins him, easy. It's like, but when you actually break down the X's and O's, when you watch Michael Chandler fight, this dude, he's in his stance, he's low, and he goes forward. He plods forward and he's plodding forward. Hoofy, I have always said, and this goes back to the physique. He is fine when it comes to striking off the back foot. But when people had made the Connor comparisons, I said, go back and rewatch Connor off the back foot. I mean, there is clear distinction to the levels that we see here. Mauricio Hoofy is very formidable. But if Michael Chandler is backing him up against the cage, I just don't know if I'm going to see Hoofy landing some crazy check counter. Like it's possible. Fazeev let that happen to him, but Michael Chandler, it really just depends if he's going to actually try to win or if he wants to be the most electrifying person in the fucking world and wants to be face down on the fucking mat at the White House. I mean, it's hard for me to put stock in Hoofy because I have definitely said before, like he's not all that everybody seems to believe, just because he's creative and he's fun and he does a spin kick, cool. But he's already lost 2 fights ago. I mean, he got submitted by Benoit Saint Denis, and Rafael Fiziev, he got knocked out, but he lasted a lot longer than maybe he should have. I would say, so people have opportunities on this dude. If you put the right game plan on him, he's not offering back what is necessarily going to end the fight, I would say. So Michael Chandler, if you guys remember, in the 5th round, he almost fucking killed Charles Oliveira. That dude probably has brain damage because of what Michael Chandler did to him. So it's an unfortunate task for Michael Chandler to try to get through Hoofy if Hoofy is on his fucking element. I'm gonna do it, guys. I am going to go ahead and pick Michael Chandler to beat Mauricio Hoofy.
Man,
Again, and this goes back to what I was saying about Justin Gaethje. This means the world to this motherfucker. To be competing at the White House, brother, there's just no way he doesn't win. The American Muscle himself. Like, I don't know. It's crazy.
God damn it. You're taking all of my picks here. I thought that this was going to be the most galaxy brain one of them all. Because, I mean, I think that Michael Chandler is a much more versatile fighter than Mauricio Hoofy, which I think is a crazy thing to say because, he does get finished a lot. I mean, he has had massive problems. I think that Hoofy is a dude who, again, the flashiness makes him seem more attractive when it comes to finishing potential. And he does get those finishes with a lot of people. But I think that Chandler has a broader arsenal at his disposal than Hoofy does. I mean, I think that if Michael Chandler, who I think has the potential to do this, I think if he fights like Benoit Saint Denis did, then he wins this fight. I mean, again, I think that he has the wherewithal and the skill to be able to do that if he so chooses. Like you said, I mean, it really is the toss up as to whether or not he wants to go and outflash the flashy fighter. That I think makes potentially is the issue with that. But yeah, I mean, I see potential for Michael Chandler to win this fight. I really do. I don't know. I guess I got to pick first next time because you're taking my thunder on some of these. But yeah, I guess we're gonna have to be in lockstep on this one too because I think that Michael Chandler. I think that this is the exact right fight for the upset for Hoofy. Take this guy down. Take him down. We see he'll stay down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's. I don't know. I mean, I think that that's just where I'm landing on this one as well. I think it's kind of crazy. I know that I'm seeing it. That Hoofy is the favorite in this. Whatever. I think that this is the exact right type of fight for him to get a beat on. I don't know. I mean, I think that it is kind of crazy that Michael Chandler is in this fight to begin with. We all acknowledge that, but there could not be a better setup for him than this based on the style that Hoofy has.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, listen, this is going to be an interesting one. I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, we got to pick differently on one of these, for fuck's sake. All right. Next up is Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins. I mean, Kyle Dawkins is a dude who came back. He was out of the organization for a while, and kind of written off. Everybody thought, oh, that was the end of Kyle Dawkins. He comes back into the organization and has been knocking people out left and right, going up against Bo Nickel, who everybody has problems with, yet has found ways to win. Had a couple of times where maybe had some adversity in his career, but came back with a vengeance. Kind of reminded everybody who he was in his last fight, and seems to be back on the trajectory that he was hoping to be. So this is an interesting one. I mean, I think that the power of Dawkins plays a big part in this. Bo Nickel is obviously going to enact the wrestling. I mean, I think that that's going to be his greatest asset here. If Bo Nickel tries to be a hero, he could have some problems, but I don't think that he's going to be taking a lot of chances on a high profile card like this. I think that that Bo Nickel is going to play it pretty close to the vest and kind of lean on his strengths as opposed to being the flashy guy that maybe Hoofy might be.
Yeah, this one is. It was interesting at first. I'm thinking like, oh, Kyle Dawkins has definitely proved a lot. He should be the guy who could probably get this done. But let's not forget, guys, Bo Nickel, he is a protege in the sport. There's a lot of stock in him. Him winning on the White House does insane things for guys who wear sweaters. Like, let me just put it that way, brother. Like, this dude wins and the boys are up. The red solo cups get flipped over on a fucking table. I think Bo Nickel, an Olympic wrestler, man, I think it might just look a lot easier than Kyle Dawkins is not necessarily is prepared for, but unfortunately what the reality is going to speak to. I think he's perfectly prepared to go against the best wrestler that he probably has, but Bo Nickel is probably just going to be, his striking. When you saw the last fight, if he keeps at his range and keeps it, where he can do the moves, he can throw the head kick. Kyle Dawkins, if he can bull rush his way to the inside, it's good. Get Bo Nickel up against the cage, but when Bo Nickel shoots, I'm gonna be almost certain that he's gonna get the takedown. So I'm going to take Bo Nickel on this one.
Oh my God, damn it. Well, so am I. That is certainly my pick as well. Yeah, I mean, dude, Bo Nickel has been doing good things. I mean, Kyle Dawkins has been doing good things since he's come back, but I don't think he's faced a person that has the well-roundedness of Bo Nickel. And yeah, I mean, granted, he, I mean, like a person like Michelle Pajeda not putting anything out like Bo Nickel is going to be putting out. Again, the gravitas of this card plays a big factor in it. I think Bo Nickel is going to be pretty conservative in the way that he approaches this fight. Take him down, make it easy for yourself. Don't try to be a hero. Don't try to go for anything overly dangerous. I think Kyle Dawkins, if it doesn't happen in the first round, it's the second round kind of situation. It's going to be a gradual wearing down if it has to be, or it's going to be an easy early sub for Bo. I think it's pretty foregone. So I too am taking Bo Nickel.
I think, and this is just my hot take. If the predictions market is out there and you guys want to know what my take is, I think this is where we get our promotion for RAF. I think Bo Nickel will have his post fight speech and he will call out his next opponent. I don't know if it's going to be Colby. I don't know if it's Armin. RAF. He's going to put it front and center because that's the real American brand. Like that is going to be his post fight speech. Is what I will go ahead and say.
Fair enough. I mean, he's got some ground to make up in RAF based on pulling out or not pulling out, but not accepting the one match against the guy with the weight misses and all that. Mm-hmm. So that would be a nice way to get back into the good graces of that organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Right in front of Donald Trump, too. He can do his golf swing emote after he wins.
I mean, again, even more of a reason to not take any chances in the fight,
Yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us to the first fight of the evening. Crazy that this thing is opening it up, but what a banger opener this is. This is, of course, Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia, a guy who I have been very high on. I think that he has been a sneaky, under the radar kind of dude who has been doing great things, but he is going up against Diego Lopez, who is, one of the greats, I would say, in the current crop, but one of the greats who has been shown to be bested and now be bested multiple times by the champ. So, I mean, is he an insurmountable foe? I mean, definitely not. We know that he's not because of that. He's been beat. I mean, he's got 8 losses on the record. Granted, the other side says 27. So, it's not often that he's losing, but 8 is not 0. So, it is certainly a potential that he could have some things go not his way against Steve Garcia, who is a very, very proficient technical striker.
I think it is very possible that Steve Garcia is going to win by TKO. Diego Lopez is the type of guy who will take shots. You got to take a shot to give a shot. He understands this. He is willing to go step in the fire against the best at it. And Diego Lopez, man, I have never doubted him. I had said ever since the Super Sadiq fight, he had proven to me everything that I needed to see. Obviously he got the armbar victory before, the triangle armbar, whatever you want to say, and then he got the knockout with Super Sadiq, and I was sold. Those are the two things I need. Boom, and he has not let me down since. Obviously went up for a title. It did not work out. Got another rematch at a title. It did not work out. But he is somebody who has learned to enjoy his time in the sport. He's 31 years old. He's going to take whatever fight that they want to give to him. He even said, I didn't know this was for the White House. They just said, do you want to fight Steve Garcia? I said, yep. And then I found out the next day on TV. Diego Lopez is a fearless fighter, which it can be worrisome. A guy who has nothing to lose and a guy who has got the skill to back up. I mean, this is not just a guy who lost for the championship. I mean, this is a guy who arguably went to a very close decision the first time with the champ. Arguably, it was 2-2 going into the fifth, argue at the wall. But Diego Lopez has the skill. I talked about the pound for pound. If Diego Lopez went to a close decision with Volk and he's fucking pound for pound 3, where's Diego? I mean, these are the questions that I'm asking. Is Steve Garcia going to be able to stand toe to toe with somebody that I believe is one of the best in the promotion all around the board? I don't think so on this day. I think Diego Lopez, he's going to have the chin that holds up, and he's going to go ahead and enact whatever game plan he wants. I mean, you saw what happened with Jean Silva, a guy who's a powerful first-round finisher, and he got taken right out the fucking loop. I mean, his first round was nothing when fucking Diego got a hold of him. And I think, again, to Diego's credit in that fight, of course, the way he made it look so easy, I think we potentially could see, and I would love to be wrong, but I could see Diego Lopez getting the position that he wanted, and we just lift him up and take him down, and then now I mean, if you just listen, John Silva's a different ball game, but if you just watch how he maneuvered a very a very threatening striker with no care in the fucking world, I think Diego Lopez possesses a skill that not many people have, and that is just being fearless, man. He just does not care who is in front of him. He will fight and he will try to win.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't think that there's any doubt about that. There's a reason that he has been on 300, the Sphere, and here. They know what they get when you get a Diego Lopez fight. It's not just him being a fan favorite. He's a fan favorite for a reason. It's the fight style that he has. It's the intensity that he brings to fights. It's his characteristics in the fights and the amount of striking, plus the other dangerous aspects when it comes to wrestling and grappling. He's a well-rounded fighter, and one of the toughest that I can name in the promotion, really. But he has had problems. Not problems. He won against Dan Ige, but that like close fight on short notice, right? I mean, like that went
A day's notice,
not hours notice, if you recall.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean,
that's my point. Come on. I mean, like, something like that. Now, granted, Dan Ige is a dude who, is probably about gatekeeper status, but like if he was able to make it to the Horn, I think that there's potential there. Steve Garcia was on the longest active knockout streak in the promotion for a while there. I mean, granted, who is he knocking out? I guess is the question, right? Steve Garcia has sneaky power in his hands. I think that he's a dude who is underestimated a lot for just because by nature of just being under the radar. I mean, they tried to set Steve Garcia up with a main event against David Onama, and that got overshadowed by a whole bunch of other stuff that had nothing to do with him. And then David Onama folded pretty quickly on that card as well. It did not get him what they wanted out of that, but that's not his fault. You know what I'm saying? I think that he could have been built better off of that. I think that there's a lot of factors that have, like, Steve Garcia is like a star that was not put into the right movies. This is the
Yeah.
right movie right here, right now. This will be the one where we differ. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think that this is one that, you know, I yet again will be kicking myself when it is not correct, but I believe in Steve Garcia. I always have. I think that this is going to be the time where he's going to shock the world like the Shockmaster. So
Yeah,
this will be the
this
one.
this will be fun. I'm excited for everything coming with this card and all the fights included. So yes, I'm glad that you picked different.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So at least we have one where we do differ. 1 point to be gained for me if I'm correct about that fight. But either way, of course, guys, this is the White House card. This is UFC Freedom 250. This is on this coming Sunday, and you know that your boys are going to be watching this thing. So if you want to watch along with either of us, you can do that on our individual watch-alongs. I will be at youtube.com/@YamaShow, and Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
YouTube.com/@CPSmalls, of course. And if you guys didn't know, this Friday we are reviewing the Furious movie that is coming out Thursday night at select theaters. Obviously, it'll be dropping Friday night for the majority of everybody else. We will be reviewing it the first day in the morning, so make sure you're there. And if you don't want the movie spoiled for you, we will be doing a spoiler-free edition at the beginning. Make sure to stop by, listen to that portion. Leave a like, leave a comment, and we will definitely talk about the rest of it when you get back to the video.
Absolutely. Very much looking forward to doing that. Also, later this week, I kind of talked about it earlier in the stream, but I was planning on doing a video about the lawsuit that has been waged against UFC Freedom 250. I've decided to do a live stream version of that instead. There's just a lot of factors that are going into that suit that made it a little bit too cumbersome for a video. So if you are interested at all in that lawsuit, we're going to be breaking down the entirety of the legal document. We're going to go through it. It's, I think, 34 pages long, but it's actually a quicker read than that would lead one to believe. So if you're interested in that at all, hang out. I'm going to be doing that on Wednesday, I believe. So this coming Wednesday, if you want to learn all about what the legal element of that is, if there's any merit to it, come back to the stream for that, and we will be hanging out for that. So a lot of streams coming up this week, as always. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Yama Show. And other than that, anything else, Chase?
No, I think everybody should just go ahead and try to enjoy the rest of their day. If you wait a few, and if you weren't here to catch the entirety of this show, I will have the timestamps put out here in a few for you, and I'll make sure to send those over to Thinker so he can have those as well. So just everybody have a good night, lock in, man. We got some fights
Absolutely.
coming this Sunday.
Most definitely. So, guys, really appreciate the chat on this one. Thank you very much for hanging out with your boys for it. We will see you very soon for more content, as always. So, in the meantime, have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, and as always, fight on.